Welcome to Farm Charm Chic. I'm Emily. In today's episode, I have a fall kickoff for 2026. This is a mega video. It is so much fun. It is a lot of fall projects put together. So sit back and enjoy. And you guys, I have a brand new mystery box video coming out this Friday. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss that fun video. But let's go do some DIYs and get in the mood for fall. If you guys are anything like me, when you see these packages of these 3 twine rolls at Dollar Tree, I seem to always pick them up a couple at a time. I think they're found over close in the automotive section at my Dollar Tree, but anyhow, I have several packages of them. So I thought it would be fun to kind of take them and make a unique spin on a pumpkin here. So I just take 5 of the rolls. You'll have 6 in 2 packages, but you'll just leave 1 to use for crafting projects. I take 5 of them and I'm just trying to see what I want to use for my pumpkin stem. I originally thought a spindle would be really cute, and if I had a thicker wood spindle, I think that's what I probably would use. Instead I end up using a little finial that works really cute. I'll show you what that looks like. But anyhow, be creative what you use for your stem. You could even use a stem off of another pumpkin you might have taken off for a different project. I take some thicker twine. I get this twine at Walmart. It's quite thick, not quite like rope, but thicker than just crafting twine, your normal crafting twine. I wrap it around about 3 times and then just tie it off in a little bow. If you don't want the bow, just tie it in a knot and cut off all of the little ends and everything so that way you don't have the bow there. It would also be fun to embellish this in so many different ways. The creative possibilities are completely endless here with this project. So now I want this little stem here. This is just a finial. This is what I end up using. They come in a package of 3 or 4 of them at Hobby Lobby in their woodpile section. You could also use any type of finial that you could find. Again, be creative with this part. And I did stain it with some antiquing wax to kind of tone down that natural wood color. You could paint it green. You can really do whatever you would like to. This project is so versatile. Now I just had to stuff a little something down in the middle of the pumpkin there to have a surface to glue my finial to. So you could use, depending on how thick your item you're using for your stem is, you may not need to do that. But I just stuffed some, I think it was just like paper that I stuffed down there. I can't recall exactly, but I think it was just some of that paper that they wrap your stuff in at Dollar Tree. I just stuffed that down in there. You can't see it. If you were worried about it, you could definitely put some Spanish moss at the bottom of it to cover it, but you can't see it from the bottom. So just kind of use your best judgment with that. I then take some hot glue and put that down into the center, and I'm just going to hold that finial to make sure that it stands up straight. I just think this turns out so cute. It was so fun to come up with the different ways to embellish it and everything. So I just make sure that that stem is really good and dry there with that hot glue. And then I go around the edge because I want to add a little bit of Spanish moss. I think the Spanish moss adds a good texture to your DIYs. And I also think it looks so fun with the fall DIYs because it looks like the dried kind of vines and stuff from the pumpkin. And it also adds like a little softness around it, so it's not, you don't have such harsh edges. So I just gently place that all around, and then I take this lamb's ear that came from Dollar Tree, and I am just going to snip off a couple of leaves. So you can use whatever kind, if you have some different foliage that you want to use. We always have like leaves left over from different projects we do. I'm sure any crafter knows that. You maybe have a bag with a bunch of different things. Reach into that for this. Find some different things to stick on here. I really liked the look of the gray tones to the greenish gray tones of the lamb's ear with this. I thought it had a really good natural looking tone. I know that's not what pumpkin leaves look like, but again, pumpkins aren't made out of twine rolls either, so we're just using our imagination here. I'm just using some hot glue to stick that down in there. It slips in really easy in between those rolls of twine to get a nice look there. Now in my stash, I had this package of these little sunflowers. They're adorable and they would look so cute on this. And I kind of go back and forth trying to decide if I put them on the pumpkin, if I don't. You'll have to let me know. And I mean, you'll see me in a minute here go back and forth on if I should put it on or not. I ultimately decide not to put it on, but look how cute. I mean, even now I'm looking at it going, it really does look so cute on there. So you can kind of see that you can embellish it any way that you decide. I have this pipberry here. And you can pick this up at Dollar Tree, Walmart, any craft store, Amazon. And I just decided to wrap it around my fingers. I love to give it kind of that corkscrew look. I love the fact that you're going to add a little, like another color on there. So this comes in white, it comes in orange, it comes in all different colors. And the white is just what I happen to have there. So whatever color you want to choose, it's going to bring a different element, a different texture to your piece. And I just love it. And I think it works really well when you're doing fall DIYs to have this, because when you curl it up in that corkscrew shape, it really does look like the pumpkin vines. And I think it's so fun. And it really does have a good place and a good purpose on it. So I just wrap it around that finial there, and you kind of can pull it. It's a wire, so you can stretch it and see how cute it would look even with that sunflower. I still am trying to decide, do I put it on? Don't I put it on? I really had a hard time deciding. Do you guys ever have a hard time deciding, is it going to be too much if I glue it? I don't want to glue it and then hate it. You'll have to let me know down in the comments if you ever struggle with that, but I do all the time. You can say I ultimately decide to leave it. I still think it turns out really, really cute, but you definitely can jazz this up as much as you want, leave it as simple as you want. I thought this way it matched any type of decor. It had a very neutral tone to it, so that way anybody could take this and put it right into their fall decor. But I love coming up with different items to make pumpkins out of that you don't ordinarily see, and I thought it was really fun to take these twine rolls and do a pumpkin out of those. What do you guys think of this one? I am so excited with how this DIY turns out, and it's kind of questionable through the process. It was one of those I had to trust the process. In the end product is beautiful, so stay with me on this. This is just using some of those styrofoam pumpkins from Dollar Tree and a little bit of spackling, and I added a little bit of water to my spackling so it was a little bit more the consistency of like cake frosting. But you're going to have some texture in there with some little pieces of the spackling that kind of makes it look like the warty pumpkins that you've seen. So that's totally fine if your spackling is not smooth. In fact, you don't want it smooth. You want it to have more of that texture. But I'm just kind of spreading it over the pumpkin like frosting. I end up putting on some gloves because it does get a little messy. And I'm just covering all of the areas, trying to make sure that I don't need full coverage here to cover the orange. I just need coverage where it matches texture. So if I miss like a spot on the styrofoam, you're going to notice. So I just want to make sure that all of the styrofoam has a little bit of the spackling over it so the texture matches. You can kind of just see how I'm going all over like this. Is definitely messy, so just be aware of that. Now this pumpkin right here, this is completely dried, 24 hours, the spackling. I even took it outside and set it on my trampoline so I could make sure that the sun kind of really dried it well. And I'm covering it completely with some elephant chalk paint. I want this to kind of have almost like a concrete look. Now this particular one right here is another one that I had done, and I'm also painting it. So I've done two separate styrofoam pumpkins, same process, and I am painting my second one now with the same elephant chalk paint. So I'm just showing you here that I have two different ones, and I'm going to kind of do a little bit of a different technique on both of them. Either way, you just want to make sure that your spackling has completely dried, and then also let your paint dry before you move on to the next step. So on this one, I'm taking some more plaster and I'm going to spread this over my pumpkin. I know that I wanted a two-tone look with the white and the gray, and so I wanted to test out two different methods here, and I honestly don't have a preference over which one I like the best. I will say that this one has a more sturdy feel once it's done, but not enough that you would notice between the two and think that it was better than the other. So whichever method you feel like you would like to try, follow that, because they both turn out beautifully, but just slightly different. So I'm just covering this. I just wanted to be able to see a little bit of that gray peeking through. Again, kind of like a concrete feel. Now on this next one, I decided instead of doing another layer of the plaster, I wanted to just do paint and see if it works the same, because I thought, well, maybe this would be a little bit easier, and this method is a little bit easier, less messy. So it just kind of, again, depends on which one you think suits your type of DIY that you want to try. So I'm just going over with white paint So it'd be fun to try with some different colors, I think. But honestly, at this point, I'm going, these just look, I just was not sure about how this was going. But I always say trust the process, and I did. And oh my gosh, I just love these. Especially if you're a crafter who likes to sell things for different boutiques or craft fairs, shows that you do. You could definitely do these. You'll have to do like kind of batch them and do the spackling on a bunch, let that dry for a day, and then move on to the next step. So it is something that'll take you a little bit of time, but you could easily do several of these, and I think that you could have a really good return for how much you've paid to make these. I think you could charge a very decent amount for these. So now I'm just moving on to the next step here, just touching up any area that I want to make sure that there's paint on. I will say that if you don't let these completely dry and you're painting them like this, what will happen is it will start to peel back. So if you notice that, just stop, let it dry some more, and then move on to the next step. I was even using my heat tool. You can kind of see at the bottom where some of that was lifting up because the bottom where it had set down hadn't dried completely. Really easy to fix though. Again, I just dried it and then just covered it with paint, and you cannot even tell. The fun part about these pumpkins is the texture that you're creating, and you really want to define that texture, almost like it's like this modern organic feel to these pumpkins. And so I just really, really wanted that warty texture we've created to really pop. So I felt like there was a little too much white. So I'm just taking my elephant chalk paint brush that has just a little bit. So I'm almost like dry brushing over the top of these. And that texture is so thick and so rich, it just picks up all of that little bit that's left in the brush and really defines that. Now on the flip side of that, if you feel like you have too much white, you can go back in, too much gray, you can go back in with your white brush and do the same technique. In fact, you can go back and forth until you get your desired look. Just make sure you let it dry in between each time, so that way you're not smearing the paint. You're getting that true definition between the two. I just absolutely love how this texture looks. You can see here between the two how that gray pops on that one on the right. So I just decided to do the same thing with this other one and make sure that all of that texture pops with the gray on this one. So I just do that same thing, dry brushing over this one. After you've got your desired texture on there and the colors and everything, and it's completely dry, I'm going to go in here, and this is where you can have so much fun making this look like a pumpkin and adding whatever details you would like. I really wanted to go for a very, very neutral feel with these. So these are just a couple of sticks from my yard or my farm that I have that I love to use for pumpkin stems this time of year. And since these are those styrofoam pumpkins from Dollar Tree, you can just push those in. They will go right into the top, and then a little bit of hot glue holds them in place. And then I'm just going to put a little bit of Spanish moss over the top. That's just going to add a little bit of softness and texture. And again, you guys know that I love to use Spanish moss in fall DIYs, especially with pumpkins, because I feel like it does look like it just goes. It feels like it's the curly, cute little vines that you get with your pumpkins. It's a good color for fall, and especially where I'm trying to stick with the neutral tones here, it's really good. So you can see with this one here, I'm just a little bit of glue. I kind of put my little stick askew so it's not quite straight up. It's kind of off to the side. You can have so much fun doing all of these details with these pumpkins here. And then I'm just going to place the Spanish moss here and kind of push that stem where I want it situated off to the side there, and just kind of let that dry. I'm taking a little bit of barn wire. This is just fencing wire. You can use whatever kind of wire that you would like, or you can even skip using the wire and do, as you'll see me in a moment, use a little bit of pitberry on them or something. I just felt like this wire really kind of brought that modern farmhouse touch into it. Looks like the little tendril curlicue vines that you get on the pumpkins naturally, and it just adds another element into it. And all I do is I just kind of bend it almost into like a U shape with the both ends of the wire, I'm just sticking that into the styrofoam, going around my stem a little bit and sticking the other end right down into the styrofoam. And so that way you're not having any sharp edges exposed or anything like that. You can touch those with some glue if you want to have them stay a little bit more permanent on there. But honestly, if you stick them down in far enough, they're not going to be coming out unless you were to like pull on them. Now on this second one over here, this is where I started to do some of the pitberry. I have some white. If you wanted to bring a color in, you could, but I just really, again, wanted these to be very neutral, looking. And so I'm just going to curl these around just a little paintbrush here to get the curlicue vines on those. I'll snip it off there. And then I do the exact same thing. I just stick that wire, since these are on a wire, down into the styrofoam and just kind of curl that around the stem, and I'll stick the other end back down into that styrofoam. I just love how these are looking. You'll have to let me know what you think of these. These were so fun to create, and I really just wanted just a fun, something a little bit different. I don't know. I'm so excited to put these in my decor. I just think they're so fun. In fact, I liked the pitberry on the one so much, I decided to kind of do another little bit to put on the other one, because I really thought they looked cute with that. And then in that same vein, I take a little bit of the fencing wire that I have and put a little bit of that onto the other pumpkin, so that way they're almost identical in the way that I did each of them. So if you're batch doing these, you're wanting to sell these, make it as easy as possible, make them all look the same, or you could even do a little bit different, something to speak to different buyers, different colors. But I just really think these turn out so cute. I am so pleased with how these turned out. They are exactly what I wanted them to be. You would never know that these were the Dollar Tree styrofoam pumpkins underneath here. Just look at that beautiful texture that you get on these, and just think of all the different possibilities you could do with different tones or colors that you wanted to play around with. I just think this is just such a fun, different way, different treatment to do for these pumpkins, and I just think they turn out beautiful. Very classy and high-end, in my opinion. I just think they're going to be so fun to have in my fall decor. I would love to know what you guys think of these. All right, here is everything that I have to use in today's video. Just a reminder, there's some really fun items here, so let's jump right in and get started. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make a cute little flower sack. Now, my vision for all of the items in today's video is to kind of make, with my tiered tray, a little farm stand, pie stand, something that you would maybe see on the side of the road driving through the countryside, and you see this darling little pie stand of a little family or some little kids who spent all day making pies, and they're out trying to sell them. So the first thing I'm doing is taking some fabric and just cutting it down with my pinking shears. I do not love to sew, and so I'm doing this with glue. It's going to work just fine, especially for this project. So I'm just gluing 3 sides of my little flower sack here, and that's why I cut it with my pinking shears, was to have that cute little edge to it. I just think that that's super cute and very farmhouse and rustic looking. Now I have this Excelsior, I'm not sure how to say this, but this stuff is a mess. You guys, it made my anxiety go through the roof to pull this out of this bag. Now, Spanish moss for some reason doesn't bother me, but this Excelsior, like, I can't stand it. So I wanted to tuck it away. So we're putting that as filler into our flower sack. So I'm just going to stuff that down in here, so it's going to make this sack look nice and full. I even get a dowel to push it down in. I feel like it multiplies as you're using it, and so it's just one of these things that you're going to have to resolve yourself to. Things are going to be a mess for a minute, but it does clean up nicely. Now I'm just using a little elastic to tie off this sack, and then I'm going to tie it with some twine. Now we want a cute little tag on here to tell us what this is, because I just think that's going to be so cute. So I'm just taking a tag and I'm roughing it up a bit, crinkling it back and forth, giving it some texture and some wrinkles. And then using my favorite click stamps that I picked up at Michael's, I just pulled out the letters to say pie flower. And I'm just doing a couple of test runs on a piece of scrap paper here before I stamp it on the tag. Make sure my spacing's good. I like the way that it looks. I just love these, and I have definitely used them. They are worth the investment. They're not even that expensive, but definitely worth it. So after I have my letter stamped on there, I'm going to age this a little bit. I'm just taking some distressing ink and I'll go around the edges, and then I'll even rub it over the top and the back. That will kind of let all of those raised wrinkles and areas there pick up that aging, so it just looks like this tag's been around for a couple of minutes or two. I just put a little bit of twine on it, and we're going to tie this on, and you could leave this project just like this if you would like. However, I have this darling little scoop, and I thought, well, this would be so cute to have attached to our little pie sack here, but we need some pies. So I picked up some polymer clay last time I was at Hobby Lobby, and I'm going to use this. This is the first time I've ever used polymer clay. So if you are a pro at this or you've used this before and I am giving you all of the cringiness, like, I get it. I'm new, but it totally works. I'm cutting out a couple of circles. I'm making a pumpkin pie first. And they sell cute little cutouts and things that you can get for this. I just used the lid of like an acrylic paint bottle to get my circle. That was the circumference that I needed. So I cut my pie crust out. I cut the pumpkin pie filling out. And I'm just stacking those two right here to make like the base layer of my pie. Then I'm going to cut some little strips here. I have to make the crust that goes around the outside of the pie. So I just wrap that around. You guys, this stuff really is super forgiving. It sticks really well. A lot different than like ceramics that I remember. But it was really kind of fun. Now I'm making the crinkly little crust of the pie at the top to make this look like pie. So I just rolled out like a little snake, for lack of a better term, and wrapped it around the top of the pie. And then I'm just making indents with the back of my brush, so you can kind of see how it looks there. I think it looks so cute. So this is just a little bit of white, and I am trying my best to make whipped cream here. It took a couple times to kind of like roll it and get it in the position that I wanted. This is just like a little upholstery needle here that I'm using to kind of help shape it. I can definitely see how investing in some tools might be advantageous if you're going to do this a lot. So just keep that in mind. So we're just putting our little whipped cream on here, and you can definitely tell that this is a pie. I feel like you'll have to let me know what you think. So I thought we need one more pie. The one pie was cute, but I was having so much fun. I decided to make a little blueberry pie. So I did the same thing with the crust layer, and then I did the blue like fruit layer, and then I rolled out a ton, and I mean like 40 or 50 of these little itty bitty blueberries to put onto my pie. I was even using tweezers. But you guys, I really had so much fun, and I think that I might use some more polymer clay in some of my DIYs. So I just wanted to make this look like one of those traditional lattice pies. I don't really know pie terminology, so if I'm saying that wrong, forgive me. But I remember my grandma used to make pies like this. So I wanted to just kind of get those little strips of the pie crust going across the top. So I just kind of rolled out my dough, or in this case polymer clay, and made those little strips to go over the top of the pie. And then I'm folding one single one back to lay another one down the other way. And then I will reverse that and put that one down and lift the other two up. And then I'll lay another strip down. Now I'm not a pie maker. I've never actually made a pie other than maybe like a pudding pie, I guess. But I don't really know how to make pie, but polymer clay pies, I feel like I did okay with. So forgive me in my terminology and my lack of knowledge. But I feel like you can kind of see where this is going with that lattice work. It's pretty simple. It just takes a little bit of patience, and definitely, since it's very mini, you just have to use a lot of dexterity and kind of, I had to put on my reader glasses so I could see what I was doing for sure. Now I'm using the back of my paintbrush to kind of smooth these out and kind of get them so they weren't so, like harsh looking. And then I also went around the outside with just another little layer of the crust to kind of finish it off. I felt like it really needed that, where all that lattice work kind of came to an end there. Now look at how cute these are. You can definitely, you guys, I think you can tell they're pies. You're going to have to let me know what you think. But you do bake these in your oven like a literal pie. But you bake them at like 275 for about 20 to 30 minutes per 1/4 inch. So if they're a little bit thicker, you cook them a little bit longer. And then I just glued them into my little scoop that I had here. And I just think this is the cutest thing ever. I had so much fun with this project. Now, here comes the fun part for our pie flour. We're going to go ahead and get this scoop tied to the front of this sack here. So I just went ahead and laced a little bit of twine through the little hole that was on there. And then I'm just going to tie this on and bring it around and tie this little scoop in the back. This is what really just brings this project completely together, in my opinion. We're just going to cut these tails off right here. And that is really all she wrote with this project. But you guys, look at how stinking cute this is. I absolutely adore this. This is so fun. It's so whimsical, kind of Mary Poppins-ish, that like you're literally going to be like, oh, we need some flour. You put a scoop into the pie flour and out comes pies. Like, how fun is that? I just thought that was so cute and clever. And we're just going to remember that it's that Excelsior that's really inside, all contained and nice. And look at what a darling project that it made. What do you guys think of this? Would you try this? Do yourself a favor and go pick yourself up a drop cloth at your local Home Depot or Lowe's, and there are so many projects you can do with it, and it's going to last you literally forever. So I have this drop cloth, and I just cut out a piece of it, and I'm tracing out some different shapes of some pumpkins. We're going to do a couple little like bowl filler or shelf sitter pumpkins made out of fabric, and I'm just eyeballing. We're going for an extremely primitive look with these. They look so cute when they're done. And so I'm shaping out like a larger pumpkin that's like a normal shape, a tall pumpkin, and then just maybe like a little bit smaller, squattier pumpkin. I want to do one in like 3, each in a different color. So like 1 orange, 1 white, and 1 green. So, and I kind of use those colors with my pumpkins when I'm decorating, so that's why I'm drawn to those colors. Now I'm using my pinking shears to cut these out. You guys know that I don't sew. It's not because I don't love to sew. I just don't have a good sewing machine, and I don't have the patience for it. So I need to get better at that. I truly do. But these are so easy because you can do them quick and you can glue them, and they are so cute. If you cut them out with the pinking shears, you have a little bit less fraying on them. You want a little bit of fraying because, again, we're going for a really primitive look on these. So when I cut them out, I'm just kind of cutting around where I traced or drew. And if something looks kind of off, like on the pumpkin, it looked like that corner was a little bit weird to me, I'm just going to fix it. But these do not need to be perfect. Now I'm using some hot glue and I'm going around. Now this is where I made one mistake that I would redo, so learn from me, is I left the bottom open where I could stuff this from the bottom. I should have left it open in the top where the stem goes, so that way I can easily glue my stem in at the top. So that's the only change that I would make. So again, learn from me what I'm saying, not what I'm doing. This way worked too. You have to leave an opening anyway to put the stuffing in, so you might as well just do it where you're going to have to put your stem in anyway. So again, you're just going to glue around these, leaving an opening for stuffing, and that's how you're going to attach your front to your back. I really love the way that the painted drop cloth comes out when these are done. So I am painting the front and the back. You can do, I'm saturating the drop cloth really well. You could even do like a dry brushing over these just to give that hint of orange and have it be really rustic looking, which I kind of do a little bit with the white pumpkin that I do, but I really do like the way that looks too. So you're going to do this kind of to your style and what you like. But I do on these, I'm saturating each side pretty decently with the chalk paint, and that drop cloth does absorb quite a bit of paint, so you do end up using quite a bit of paint on these. With this one, I had a little sponge brush and I thought I would try that, and it lasted about that long, and I went, nope. It is much better with the brush to have your bristles to be able to get all of the paint into the fibers and everything on the drop cloth. So lesson learned, the sponge brushes do not work well in this instance. Now I could have left this one the natural drop cloth color, but I decided to paint it white so it would actually match the others with the same type of texture and everything. But that would be super cute to make it and leave it just the plain drop cloth color as well. So this one I am kind of doing a little bit of a lighter coat of white on here to kind of have it be more splotchy, or to kind of show you that you don't have to saturate it completely, and it still turns out super cute. I think actually I do one side with the super thick paint and the other side not as thick. Here's a look at all of them together. Now these do take a little while to dry if you saturate them pretty good. So I'd say leave them for about 24 hours. You could probably speed up the process with like a heat gun or something, but I just let them naturally air dry. Now I have this stamp. It came from Hobby Lobby and it has this like cursive script on it. And I just love using it in my French country DIYs. And I really just thought it would be kind of fun to do this on the pumpkins and kind of add a little bit more texture to it. Something that is totally optional if you like the look of it, or you have, I've seen some with even bigger script, which I don't have a bigger script stamp, but I think that would be beautiful to do on these. So I just kind of used what I had, and I did like the way that it looked, but I only did it on one side. So I had that option if I wanted to turn the pumpkin around and not have this on there. But I found it was easier with this stamp to press the pumpkin down onto the stamp rather than press the stamp onto the pumpkin, just because of how stiff the paint and everything makes the drop cloth. So this was definitely the easier method. There are so many different ways that you could embellish these, and so the possibilities are endless. This is just to get those creative juices flowing for you to think of how you would tailor it for your home or your booth that you'd like to sell items in. I just think that the choices are endless for what you could do with these. I have this pillow that was on my back porch and it started to get a little bit of worn like rips or holes in it. So I decided to use it for my stuffing. And so I'm just going to cut this open. I was actually quite surprised to see that the fluff inside of it was kind of this dark color, but it makes sense. So, and it's fine because you're not going to see it. So if you have pillows that are wearing out or anything, hang on to them and keep that fluff and use it for different projects like this. Now I'm just putting that fluff inside and using a little dowel to kind of zhuzh that around, make sure it's getting into all the nooks and crannies and everything like that. It's going to make your life a lot easier than trying to stick your hand in there figuring all of that out. Once you've filled this up, you're just going to use a little bead of hot glue along that opening, and that is going to seal it off. I'm just using the dowel to help kind of push this because that glue does seep through the drop cloth a little bit. So wear some finger protectors if you're worried about it, or like I did here, I just used the dowel, and then I actually ended up grabbing one of my little craft clips or clamps to place on it to help it until it dried. And I'm just going to do the same thing with these other two pumpkins, filling them with the fluff. I'm just showing you that I wish I had left the opening at the top rather than at the bottom of the pumpkin, but I will fill these in the same manner, and I will use that little bead of glue along the opening to close them off. I'm taking some sticks that I have that I collected from my yard or my farm. I just kind of keep them in a little like bucket in my craft room. I use them all the time for projects like this. And I'm just putting a little one inside of the top with some hot glue. I don't even like try to reopen where I've already glued the fabric together. I'm just sitting it down in the seam to glue it, and it works nicely to do that. But again, if I had left this open right there, it would have stuck down in a lot easier. So I'm going to do the same thing with all three pumpkins just to give each of them a cute little stem. And that is everything I am doing with these pumpkins today. There are so many different possibilities or ways that you could embellish these, but have a look at the three of these together. I think they're so cute. They would be such a cute little shelf sitter. They would be perfect to have as bowl filler. I just think they're beautiful, and they're very French country, and there's something like primitive about them, something simplistic but yet elegant. I just think these turned out so cute and would be such a fun, different project project for you to make and have in your home. What do you guys think of these? A few videos back, I did a thrift flipping with my family video, and while my family was picking out some DIYs, I found these two beautiful bundt pans, and I knew I wanted to grab them to make some pumpkins out of. So I've been holding on to them for a couple of months. Now this little copper one right here, it does have a little hanger on it like it was made for wall decor, so I don't think it was ever used to cook anything in, but this bundt pan is heavy duty, it's beautiful, but I just loved the color. And if you saw the price on there, I only paid $1 for it. So both of these I paid $1 for. Great bargain, great deal, and they're going to make some beautiful pumpkins. To start with, I'm just taking some floral foam. You could use some styrofoam, just something to fill in the gap in the middle of this bundt pan so we can fill it with a stem and some florals to kind of bring in that nice fall feel. I've seen a lot of these through Pinterest and my Instagram feed that people have done, and there's so many different ways to make these look like pumpkins. So I'm just kind of taking my spin on it today. I hope you guys enjoy this one. This is just a finial that I had. It's from Hobby Lobby, but any type of finial or even just a stick from your yard that you could cut down to make it look like the stem of a pumpkin would work great. So no need to get too fancy with that. I just painted mine green, and now I'm just putting a little bit of hot glue down on this floral foam, and I'm just putting some Spanish moss here. This is just going to help fill in all of the gaps here, give my florals something else to stick to besides that floral foam, and it's also just going to bring home that nice fall color. I love using Spanish moss in my fall DIYs. Now, first of all, I'm just going to dry fit. I just grabbed a bunch of my fall foliage, like fall florals rather, that I have here, and leaving some little succulents there, and I just brought them all out. And I'm just playing around just until I can kind of see if I like the way something looks or I don't. And this way, before I glue everything in place to be more of a permanent hold, I know if I like it. Now, one thing you could do is if this is a pan that you're not wanting to use any hot glue on or anything, you could skip the step of the hot glue and just dry fit everything in here and use your pan. Even if you did use a little bit of hot glue, you can still get that off of the pan. But this way, if you're not wanting to totally ruin a pan, you're just wanting it for decorational purposes, but then have it be functional, that's one thing to remember as well. So you could just totally dry fit all of your florals here and just leave it. I do end up gluing mine just so I could show you the process that I go through. Now with my leaves right here, this is a wonderful tip if you get some silk flowers or leaves that are very crumpled, especially from Dollar Tree. You guys know how some of those picks can look. Just blast them flat on a table with your little heat tool that blows the hot air there. That's just going to help flatten those out, and you can see how they went from very wrinkly to very flat. It's a great hack, and it works wonderful this time of year because I feel like all of the fall leaves that come into Dollar Tree especially look so crumpled and gross, and you just are tempted to not buy them, but never fear, this trick works wonders. I love using a little bit of pitberry here. You can see off to the right, that was just kind of a pick that I got at Hobby Lobby that had all of these little orange pitberries there that you can kind of make look like little corkscrews, like the little pumpkin vines or tendrils that come off of those pumpkins. And so I love using those. Now my stem was a little too green for the vibe that I was wanting to go for, so I'm just covering it with some antiquing wax. Once I get this completely covered, I'll take just a baby wipe or a wet paper towel and kind of just wipe, just wipe the excess off. And it's just going to leave you with a nice aged look there, more antique. You can kind of see how that will stay in all of the grooves on this little piece of this finial here. And I really do like the aged look that brings, and it kind of was more the vibe I was going for. Now that I've set everything in, I've dry fitted it to where I want it, I'm going to kind of take it out the best I can, almost like a clock. That's how it made sense in my mind anyway. I'm just taking all of these pieces out, placing them kind of where I had them set in my foam, and that way when I go back in to glue everything, I have it kind of in the area that I want it. It doesn't look exactly the same, but I'm very pleased with how it turns out. I'm using a lot of hot glue to make sure that this stem doesn't go anywhere. It's not strong enough that you're going to want to pick this up by the stem by any means, but I definitely want that stem staying in place, not getting knocked over or anything like that. And the glue is going directly onto the foam. It's not going anywhere on my bundt pan. Now I just kind of work in the same order, going with a little bit of hot glue on the ends. I think if I had one of those crocks that you're able to kind of dip your stem in with the hot glue. I've never had one of those, but this was one of those projects that I thought that might be worth having. If you have one of those with the little hot glue beads that you put in, this would be a perfect project to pull that out for and do this with. But you could also use any kind of glue that you like to use, crafting glue. Hot glue is just what my go-to, and so that's what I was using here, just a little bit on the stems, and then I go around and just stick each of them in, trying to get them as close to where I had them before, but just whatever feels good, because once they're glued in, you can still kind of have a little bit of wiggle room to manipulate them how you want, but they're gonna be pretty secure once you glue them in. When I found this bundt pan, I was so excited with the color because it was already this beautiful harvest gold fall color. And I thought it would be so fun to do this with the pumpkin, but then this copper one I thought matched so well with it, so I thought they would be really cute together. I wanted to go for a more neutral look with this copper one. So this is just a peg from like a shaker shelf, and I'm just staining it with a little bit of antiquing wax to kind of make it look a little more aged. And then just a little bit of hot glue. It fit perfectly down, and there was this little indentation there, and it fit perfectly in there. And we're going to glue some stuff around it. I did not put any Spanish moss on this because I didn't really feel like it needed it. But with whatever florals you're deciding to do, some Spanish moss is a great filler to use. I just had these this was a package of the little cotton pods from Dollar Tree. There was 4 of them in there. I end up using 3. And then in between each of the cotton pieces here, you can see this is just a little bit of scrap leaf off of just one of those picks that I have off to the side there. I'll blast it with my heat tool to flatten it out, and you can see how flat that makes it. And then I just put a little bit of glue, and I'm going to just tuck one of these little leaves in between each of the cotton pieces of cotton. Are they cotton pods? Is that somebody told me in one of my videos what they were called, and now I cannot remember for the life of me. But I'm just going to stick some of those leaves in between all of those little pieces of cotton. Where this particular pan did not have a hole or recessed area, I wasn't too worried about actually gluing my piece directly, like the little florals directly onto the pan, since I don't really feel like this particular pot or pan was worth anything. The bundt pan might have a little bit of historical value. I just wanted to kind of be as careful as I could not to have the glue touch that one. This one I feel is just more strictly decorational anyway. And so I didn't have a problem gluing things directly to it. Now these are just some pip berries on this. I thought it was fun to kind of bring that harvest color of pip berry in on this particular one to tie it in to our harvest gold bundt pan that I've used. So I just thought it was kind of a fun way to bring the fall colors, but you could stay completely neutral, do some white pip berry, or skip this step altogether. I love wrapping it around like a pencil or a paintbrush as I'm doing here to give it that nice corkscrew look. I just really do think that kind of ties in the pumpkin vines and how they get all of those little corkscrews and curlicues everywhere. I thought that was a really fun touch. I think these turn out so pretty. How fun are these going to be to have for kitchen decor for fall? And where these are such like a neutral fall, you can put them up at the beginning of the season and leave them all throughout Thanksgiving or however long you leave your fall decor up. I think they're beautiful. I love this trend. You can search grandma's cabinet. Maybe you've even got a really fun bundt pan. Check your thrift stores. Even if you don't find them in this color that I did, I've seen them done with all different colors, and I think they all turn out beautifully. What do you guys think of these? I really love checking the sign blank section at my craft stores. And when I was at Hobby Lobby the other day, they had some clearance sign blanks. And you can see this one was normally around $22 and it was on clearance for about $5. Now, they have signs this size all the time and you just wait for them to go 40 or 50% off to purchase them. But if you find them on clearance, definitely grab them. Now, they have this beautiful aisle at the craft store, Hobby Lobby, at Joann's, Michael's. They sell a lot of different sizes of letters that you can get to have say things. They also sell them at Walmart. They don't have as much of a selection there, but they're growing. They may get to that point. I also know on Etsy you can buy letter cutouts. I've seen tin ones at the craft store. And I also, if you like, have a cutting machine, you could do this out of vinyl if you wanted. I just got some of the letters to spell out the word pumpkin, and they were very white and crisp, so I wanted to kind of age them a little bit. So I'm taking just a little bit of Waverly's Stone color, and I'm just kind of dipping my finger in that, and I go along the edge of each of these letters. I thought that was kind of a subtle way to age these to match the gray that's on the sign that I'm using. And I even will go in and dry brush a little bit on these. Very light distressing, but enough just so they're not so like in your face, bright white and shiny. This was just such a fun and quick project. It's always nice getting a sign blank that's already ready to go, and especially if you grab your letters, you don't even have to distress them. You're just ready to glue your letters down and have a beautiful looking sign for a fraction of what you would pay for it if you were to buy it new or buy it at a craft fair. Now I'm just lining my ruler, my straight edge up with the edge of the sign, and also kind of helping to get those letters. Actually, you can see I'm bumping the one letter there, but this is just kind of, and I apologize, you have to look at my hair here, I'm so sorry, but I'm just doing my ruler this way to kind of help get these as straight as I can. That is one thing when you're working with 3D letters like this versus a cutting machine, is your transfer paper that you have on a cutting machine eliminates this step here because everything's already like cut like perfectly in a straight line. So that is one thing when you're doing the 3D letters like this. I love the look of them, but I always stress out a little bit on getting everything lined up perfectly. So after I get everything lined up to where it is spaced correctly and all in line, I'm just putting my first letter there. I put a little bit of glue underneath it to kind of help it. And then I can kind of use that as my jumping off point for the rest of them. And you can kind of see here that I matched each letter up with the letter before. And I even pull out my ruler, the straight edge, to kind of line the rest of them up here. I think once I glued that down, I went, ooh, I probably should make sure I'm getting these. So you'll see here just a little bit of hot glue. You can use super glue. I've used a lot with these. Works with like the Gorilla Glue works really well. But I was just using a little bit of hot glue today when I had everything going. So that's just what I stuck with. But here's where I put my ruler down so I can line this up, and I just set this letter right down, making sure that everything is level and in line so it all looks nice and professional looking. One thing I do is I take my heat tool here, my heat gun, and I go over it because when you're using hot glue, sometimes you get those little webs, the stringy things from hot glue. Using your heat tool is going to help to melt those away, almost like vaporize them. And so I always go over my project with that, give it a blast or two just to kind of get rid of all of those. Now, these were still a little bit shiny in my opinion, and I wanted them to be more matte. The rest of this sign is matte. So rather than sanding everything, I just went with some matte Mod Podge over the top of them, or satin Mod Podge. to kind of take that sheen away to make them look not so glossy, but have that more matte finish so the sign all looked cohesive together. But this was such a fun and simple project, and I do love how this turns out. It's such a great size. I'm so excited to use this in my decor, and for less than about $20 that I paid for the letters and the sign, I think this is such a great addition to my fall decor. What do you guys think of this? I picked up this unfinished pumpkin stack at Hobby Lobby, but I've seen them at Five Below, at Dollar Tree. I think even Walmart I've seen something similar to this, but I figured I'd pick this up and give you guys a different idea of maybe how to make it over if you happen to see one that you like or want to try this out. So I'm just giving this a base coat of white paint. It takes a couple of coats to get the coverage that I want, and I do cover everything completely with the white. Now it does have the little raised areas on the pumpkins in thirds, and so I thought it would be fun to do some stenciling and some different pumpkin colors. So rather than do each layer its own color in the solid color of the pumpkin or do scrapbook paper, I thought this would be a really fun, different way to kind of bring a little bit of color in. It has a very French country feel to it, and I just love using stencils for different projects like this. Now, when this is done, it will have a very much like that pressed tin look, which is really popular right now, and I think it looks really good. So I'm using a couple of different stencils. I had only 2 different stencils, so I decided which one I'm going to duplicate, one on the top pumpkin and the bottom pumpkin, and then the middle one has its own different design. But I kind of just turned my stencil in different ways on each of the different little pieces of the pumpkin. Now you can see when I lifted up that middle one, I felt like there was some open areas towards the top of the design. So I'm just going to use my stencil turn in a different direction to add a couple more elements on there. Now on the bottom one, I have this different design here that I thought would be fun. And I'm going to do orange on my base pumpkin. That middle one was kind of a green color. And then I will do kind of like a brownish caramel color since I already had the base painted white. I thought that would be kind of a fun option. But you can customize this to be whatever colors are going to match your decor the best. It was kind of fun because this design on the stencil fit all the way over the entire top pumpkin because it was small enough, so I was able to get all of that design in one sitting with the stencil. Now, I love things being aged. I love things being rustic, so I am taking my fingernail file to sand this down to age this. You can see I am going over all of where I painted that stencil as well to give it a faded look. Totally optional. I personally, it's totally my style. It's very farmhouse. I love things to look like they came with a story or that they have been around for a long time. So I take my time going on each section and just kind of going over this to give it that real rustic sanded look. I feel like this looks like pressed tin. I think it's so cute. You guys are going to have to let me know if you can see the face in that middle pumpkin. When I was editing this, she kept staring back at me almost like she was blowing me a kiss. So you'll have to look at it and let me know if you can see her looking at me. But I do think this turned out really cute. I love this for fall. It's kind of a different take on this stack of pumpkins. I love the different stencils on there. And you're going to have to let me know if I need to redo that middle pumpkin to get that face to be, once you see it, you can't unsee it. So I'm like, maybe I need to turn the stencil a little bit in a different direction. But I really do think this is a very chic look, very French country, a very crisp, clean look. And I love how it turned out. This is such an incredibly easy hack, but so beautiful. I'm just taking a riser that I've made. Any riser, any size will do. And you're just going to get a wreath. Maybe you've got one laying around your house. I picked this one up at Hobby Lobby, but whatever's going to suit your style of decorating, grab that. You just want to make sure that the circumference of your wreath roughly matches the circumference of your riser. You'll kind of see why when I display it in the end. But I'm just cutting off all of the tagging and everything and placing this wreath on the riser. I'm just going to go ahead and fluff it all up, make it look really pretty, and I'm just kind of going to make sure that there's a nice flat opening in the center because I'm going to place a candle down in the center of the riser. Now, as I'm doing this, you guys, I took like 2 or 3 tags off of this already, but I noticed that you can see the little price tag hiding in there. I love how that happens sometimes. It was orange, it blended in. I'm glad I noticed it, or I might have left it there all season. Has anybody ever done that where you take something down and go, oh, the price tag was showing the whole time? Anyhow, I have this candle I picked up at the Dollar Tree, and I just love the design on the outside. It's got those beautiful leaves. I felt like it was so fall. It's something you could leave all through Thanksgiving, but you just set that down in the center of your wreath, and you have the most beautiful display for just like minutes of effort. And I just think this is so beautiful and so simple, and it's a hack that you could use any season, anytime throughout the year. I just thought that this ended up so lovely. So remember this hack next time you see some really pretty wreaths displayed, some little miniature wreaths, because this is so fun. And I mean, imagine this sitting in the center of your table for a beautiful dinner. I just love how it turns out. Is this something that you guys would try? My mom recently gave me a bag of stuff that she was going to take to the thrift store, and in that bag was a bunch of these little blocks. Now, I remember these from when I was younger. She used to have a lot of fun different sayings that she had on them, the cute little designs and everything, but clearly she was done with them and they are not quite my style, so I thought I would give them a little bit of an update. So I'm just taking 3 of these, and there was like 20 or more of these blocks. There's a lot of them, so I've got a lot of DIYs with these coming up, I'm sure. Anyway, I just covered them all in some white paint, just some chalk paint. I did take several coats just because of the dark letters on there. I probably could have sanded them down, but I was feeling, I guess, a little bit lazy this day, and so I just went over and painted them all and gave them a really good coat. Now I'm just trimming some burlap ribbon. You could easily do just some regular burlap or whatever you would like. You could completely skip this step if you wanted to, but I thought it would be kind of fun to add this little burlap on here as a little bit of a texture. So I'm just peeling a couple of the strings off around the edges to kind of fray it. I wanted this to look a little bit rustic, maybe not quite so uniform. I know that the burlap ribbon from Dollar Tree, it seems to, for lack of a better term, fall apart a lot easier. So it could probably look a little bit more rustic, because I know that when I've made things with that, I feel like the strings fall out of it really easy, like the burlap weave. I didn't have any of that on hand, so this is just some I had from Hobby Lobby. So I just went ahead and cut this down to size, and then as I did that, I was just peeling pieces off, and then I actually kind of scratched the edges here to make sure it kind of has a little bit more of a rustic. So this is kind of up to you and what your taste is. And then I'm just going to use some hot glue to put on the back of these. Now, before I glue these on, I have all of these little pieces. They have things like this from Dollar Tree, like the little wooden stickers. Some of these are just in my stash. I think they all just came from different craft stores. And I just found a couple of leaves. And I was going to use that little truck up in the corner there on the right-hand side. However, I decided it's a little bit too big for the block. Like, it kind of hung over a teeny bit and I didn't love it. So I do end up not using that. But just using some hot glue, I'm just carefully gluing that burlap on. You just want to make sure either wear your finger protectors or be really cautious as you're putting those down, because I mean, that burlap, it's going to let that glue seep through, so you just don't want to burn yourself doing this. And I end up doing this on all 3 blocks. I'm just putting these little leaves on here. I thought those were really cute. And originally, like I said, I'd wanted to put that little truck on that block that's on the top there, and so I was going to leave it blank, but it just didn't quite fit, and it just didn't look right to me. So I go ahead and cut just another piece of the burlap using the same method and just glue that down for the top one, and take one of these cute little pumpkins and I just glue that on. This is just one of the wooden stickers, and you could tailor this to any season or any holiday that you wanted. But this was so simple, and it's just cute. It just brings that little essence of fall into your decor. It would be darling on a tiered tray or anywhere that you wanted to set something like this. Even just a little gift to take somebody, so easy, and it turned out so cute.
I want to make a Halloween banner to hang out. And you could do fall, you could do Christmas, you could do like summer and florals. The basics are the same here. So on Amazon, you'll be able to find printable iron-on transfer paper. Now, you can also find this at Hobby Lobby and at Michael's. Walmart carries it as well. So any craft store, I think you'd be able to find this. And this is what allows you to use your inkjet printer, print a design, and then you're just using your iron, your heat press, whatever, to transfer onto your fabric. Now we need to find some cute designs to put on here. So I love using the Graphics Fairy website. So this is her website here. I just typed in Halloween, and all of these different categories come up. You can see that you can get different kids, different witches, different pumpkins, all sorts of different crafting ideas to use them for. If you are not familiar with the Graphics Fairy website, get yourself familiar with it. It's fantastic. She's done a beautiful job curating all of these different vintage designs to be able to use. And she does have some subscription-based content here, but most of this is free for you to use. They're just pictures that are in like the archives, like that have, they're not copyrighted or anything, that time frames run out. So she's just curated all of these images for you to get and to use. Of course, anytime I use any of her projects, I will let you guys know that I've gotten them from her website. But all you do is you're going to click on an image once you found it, and you're going to save it to your photos or save it to your downloads. Save it somewhere in your computer where you're going to easily be able to find it to make your image. Look at how cute some of these are. Now my banner, I want the images to be a vertical type shape like this right here. This is one of my most favorites. And so I was looking for images of that shape. But of course, if you're making a pillow, a dish towel, a t-shirt, a sweatshirt, a tote bag, the possibilities are endless. This is just some drop cloth that I picked up at Lowe's. It was about $17 for this size. And you guys, I will probably have this drop cloth for literal years to make projects from because it lasts a very long time. I've already made probably 12 different projects from just this drop cloth, and I haven't even made a dent in how much of it there is. Now, I did not measure anything out very specifically. I found this pamphlet that was the size that I wanted to use to cut out my design. So I used that to cut out my first sheet, and then I just use each sheet, stacking it on top of the next to cut these out. So nothing super measury or scientific there. It's very rustic. But I do just kind of fray the edges. Drop cloth naturally wants to fray once you've cut into it, which gives it that beautiful farmhouse kind of rustic look. Now, I am using my heat press to press these. You do not have to have a heat press to do these. You can use just a regular iron. You can use like your Cricut heat press or a mini heat press. You do need something that gets warm or hot like an iron does though. And you'll read the instructions on your paper to determine how high or how hot it needs to be. Now, keep in mind that my paper here that I had, I do not have to have my image reversed. So you'll want to read if this is a paper that you're putting front down. If you need to reverse your image, you'll need to do that in Canva or Word. And if you guys would like me to do a tutorial on how to do that, I would be happy to. Just let me know down in the comments and I will do a video solely on how to size or convert, like reverse your image. But you're just going to place these in the center of each of your little banner flags that you cut out here and transfer that image with your paper right onto them. I mean, can you think about how cute like sweatshirts or tote bags or pillows? I mean, there's so many fun things that you can do with using this transfer paper. Now, I'm using my crocodile to put some grommets in here. You could just cut some little holes or anything in here, or fold over the fabric and glue it to make a little tube so that way you could run your string through there or your twine. But I really wanted that grommet look in there. I kind of like the aged feel it has. And so that way the drop cloth itself, the integrity of it won't be compromised because you've got that set grommet in there. So I'm just feeding some twine through here and look at how cute this looks. What a fun way to make a customized project to hang in your home. Now, I could jazz this up a bit with some different ribbon or embellishments if I wanted to. I just love the simplicity of this and the fact that I was able to pull images that I love and use. And I could do this for a Christmas banner or just specifically fall if we wanted to do that. I love to mix my fall and Halloween decor, so that's why I went a little more Halloween-y with this one. But I love how this turns out, and it is a fairly simple project that you can customize and make your own decor just pop that much more. Let me know what you guys think of this one down in the comments. I would love to hear.
For this project, you just need a couple of cubes that are similar in size but stagger a little bit. These are just from Dollar Tree. There's just one of their main cubes on the left there from like the craft section, and then this is just another decorative cube that has some sayings all over the different sides of it. But I'm just going to paint these each with the pumpkin Waverly chalk paint just to get a really good, it takes a couple of coats on this one I'm doing now to cover all of those words. So whether or not you maybe do a coat of white over the top to start start with might help kind of alleviate using so much orange. Some spray paint would work really well too. But anyway, you're just going to cover both of these with orange chalk paint. It's not rocket science, it's pumpkins. So I'm just taking a little bit of antiquing wax and going around the edge. I really kind of was thinking of a primitive type of look with these, and so I really wanted to age all of the little lines on them, all of the corners and everything. And then I'm just going to stack these with a little bit of hot glue, so that way it's just a cute little pumpkin stack. Now for the top, I just pulled out of one of the styrofoam pumpkins that I have used for another DIY. In a pumpkin stack, I have like a little baggie of different stems, and it's kind of a fun thing that if you ever have a pumpkin that you don't like the stem on, change it out with another stem that you like or you have. I know that sounds maybe it sounds silly, I don't know, but I have a bag of just a bunch of different stems that I've taken out of pumpkins, and whenever I'm working with some things or need a stem, it's kind of fun just to look through there and see if you have one that you'll like, or for little projects like this. So I'm just putting a little bit of Spanish moss down. For some reason, I just love the look of using the Spanish moss with the pumpkins. I think it just brings home a really nice, cozy fall look. So if you don't love working with Spanish moss, you could easily just leave that off. But I just thought it was really cute. I just glued that little stem on the top there. And then I felt like it needed a little embellishment on the front here. So there's a lot of different ways or directions that you could take this. But I just put a little bit of Spanish moss, and then I just have some little cutouts. This bigger leaf is from the Dollar Tree. The smaller leaves are in a set. I believe I got it at Hobby Lobby. However, I've seen them at Dollar Tree too. So just kind of keep your eye open. This time of year, they start to come out with a lot of fun fall stuff. And I just buy the little sets, and then it's just, you have it for lots of different projects. I think this little set of leaves, this is like the third year that I've had it. But I'm just going to glue that little bit of Spanish moss on the front there, and then just kind of stack those little leaves. It'd be cute to put like a little crow or a little sunflower or something. I mean, I'm just kind of working with what I already had, but I think this turns out so cute. It's going to be such a fun little shelf sitter or for a tiered tray. I just think that it has a very primitive look to me. You'll have to let me know what you think. If you think this looks like pumpkins. I know sometimes people are like, they're square, it does not look like pumpkins, but I think it does, and I think it turned out cute. So let me know what you think down in the comments. The faux caramel apple phase is very real, and everybody loves them. Now, whether you get apples such as these, or maybe you find some wood cutouts, I know Walmart has this style right here. Dollar Tree typically has several different styles of apples this time of year, whether it's plain wood cutouts, they're wood signs. Any way that you can get your hands on an apple shape, I'm going to show you kind of a little hack as far as how to get these to look so good. Now, this is just a warm caramel color of spray paint. I'll leave it linked down in my description box. I just painted mine. These are some that I had cut out, but again, you have so many different options. You can find apples literally anywhere, any craft store, any home decor store that you go into. And so this is just going to be a way to jazz them up and make them look like those little faux caramel apples. So I have mine painted, a couple red and one green, and I just took a little bit of fabric that I have and I just tore it into some strips, and I'm going to decorate these by tying this around kind of halfway up my stick. Now, if your apple doesn't have a stick, it is very easy. You just get one of those wooden dowels from Dollar Tree. You can use a craft stick such as I have here to glue onto the back of your apple like it's coming out, or the top. That's how you're going to get your stick coming out of your apple. This is just more to show you how to do the little bit of embellishing here. And you can see I'm just going to tie this around. I had a cute little tag that I had on there that says caramel apple. That kind of is fun. But here is the hack. You want to take a screenshot of this right here. This is natural corncob bedding and litter. This is all natural. It is not going to bring bugs into your home. This stuff looks just like faux nuts, and it is amazing. And I found it on Amazon. It is kind of a larger bag that you have to buy. However, have a craft night, invite all your friends over to make these cute little caramel apples and use this stuff up. It is amazing, and I cannot believe how realistic it looks. And again, it's an all-natural product that is dehydrated like corn cobs. Like, it's just fantastic, and it's just clean. There's no odor, nothing like that. But as you saw, I just put some Mod Podge on the bottom part of my caramel apple. I kind of dipped my apple down into it, and now I'm just taking some extra and sprinkling it over the top of the apple. I have seen several influencers do this technique, so I'm hoping this works well. I'll let you know as the season goes on. Of course, there's no like foolproof way unless you use like resin or something, I don't think, to kind of have not a little bit of shedding from this. But I have to tell you, I made these a couple of weeks ago and there has been very minimal amounts that have fallen off. But I have a hack for you if you want to know how to have that and have it contained. So I'll show you that in just a minute. But again, you can see I'm just kind of smushing all of those faux nuts down onto our apple. And then after it dries, I go back in with a little bit more Mod Podge, kind of in more clumps here. Kind of like if you're making a caramel apple and you have a little bit more caramel on one spot, or maybe a little clump of caramel and a little bit more nuts stick to that area. It's kind of what I'm going here. My daughter told me she liked it better when it had one layer of nuts. However, the rest of my family told me that they liked it better with the extra layer. It looked a little bit more like an expensive caramel apple that you would get. So you're going to do whatever style you like and play around with it. Have some fun and do a little bit of seeing which style you like more. But this is just to get a second layer here. I felt like it just gave a little bit more coverage. Now here's the hack if you want to have these cute caramel apples, but you don't want to have any of this possibly coming off in your home. I just got a treat bag that I had from just making some suckers or some treats with my kids. And I placed my caramel apple down in there. And then I'm going to still embellish this the exact same way I did those other two apples at the top. I'm just doing it over the bag. So it looks like it's an actual contained caramel apple that you would go and pick up at the fair or at wherever you were. But I just thought this was such a stinking cute idea and I just thought it was so fun. But the same thing, I used that fabric and I used some twine. I would love to know if you had an idea of anything else you could embellish this with or tie on this. Let me know down in the comments what you would use to embellish yours with. But look at how cute these look, even displayed like this with some in the bag, some not. I just think they turn out so cute. And apples are so big right now. They're kind of becoming a little more popular. Apples are not my most favorite fall decor items, so I haven't done a lot with them, but they're growing on me. And so I'll have some more different apple DIYs to come. You guys request that every year, but I think that you won't have a hard time finding an apple shape to try this with. You'll have to let me know how yours turn out. What do you think of these?
Whenever I visit antique stores or vintage market days, I always look for some little jello molds or little cake pans like this. You can find them everywhere, and they run just a couple of dollars, $1 or $2 sometimes. And I thought it would be fun to turn some of the mini ones into some cute little pumpkins. Now, I did learn as I was painting my first one that the paint does not want to stick to that metal. The chalk paint didn't. So I'm going over this one with just a layer of Mod Podge. This is going to add some texture for the paint to grab on onto, and it did work a lot better. So if you are painting these, put a layer of Mod Podge on them first, let that cure completely, and then go in with your paint. It's going to help a lot better to have everything, all that paint stick, and that way when you're adding a second coat, it's not going to rub that paint off, or you're not going to have chips or anything like that. This would also be so fun to do like a crackle medium on, I think. I think next time I do this, I will try that. Now I'm doing these in two different colors. I'm doing the pumpkin color and then more of kind of like a sagey green color or a light. I think it's eucalyptus is actually what it's called. And then I'm going in after the paint has dried with some antiquing wax on a brush to kind of rub this all over and get that in all of the little teeny nooks and crannies, the crevices that are naturally in these pans. Totally up to you. I do just love the texture that this gives to do this. And I'll go all the way over the pan, and then I will kind of wipe it back so that way it just settles in all of the little inset areas. I do the same thing with the green pumpkin here. Now you could do all sorts of different sizes. I've done traditional size bundt pans into pumpkins. I've done larger jello molds. I'm not sure if these are like little dessert cups or little like tart molds. You'll have to tell me what they are. I just know that when I go to vintage market days, there are several booths that have just like boxes of these, and you can usually get them for, like I said, $1 or $2. Sometimes they'll have like a deal where you get like fill a little bag full for $5. But I just think they're so fun to have for different projects. Now I got out an old toothbrush and I got some white paint and I went ahead and made it really liquidy, and I'm just going to do a little bit of a splatter on here as an extra textural element. Again, something that is personal preference. I just wanted to give it a try to see what it looks like, and I liked it so much I ended up doing it on both of them. Now my lighter green color, it doesn't show up as much, so you could even do like a darker color if you wanted, but I really did like the way it ended up looking on both. But you just want to be careful to not get too splotchy. I mean, they're kind of a fine medium, and I think the more that you do this, you're going to get better and kind of know what you like and know what you don't like. So practice makes perfect on a technique like this. Now I have some little sticks that I gather at my farm. I love this time of year to be using all of those sticks for different projects. So I'm just using some little dog trimmers, like they're like dog toenail trimmers from Dollar Tree, to trim down the size of stick that I wanted for my stem here. And I'm just going to use a little bit of hot glue to get that stem glued right onto each of these little pumpkins. And you can have so much fun with this. You could take stems off of other pumpkins that you might have that you like. You can just go, I mean, sticks are free, so go find you some fun sticks to use. You can even use the ends of your little sponge paint brushes if you want. Cut those down to size. There are so many options for getting some little stems on your pumpkins. I do put a little ring of glue around the stem and add a little Spanish moss. I love Spanish moss on the top of pumpkins. It adds a really fun element with the fun vines and tendrils that you get on pumpkins. And I feel like a lot of stuff naturally will just settle around the stem of a pumpkin. So I love adding that in there. It kind of hides your glue. And I really think it's just a fun element. You might want to trim it up a bit as I'm doing here. Sometimes the lid can get a little long, and it just kind of depends on the vibe that you're going for. Now, one hack that I always share is when I am doing my florals, I will always save all those little bits and pieces, little odds and ends that you cut or trim off. Save them in a bag with the season of florals that you're working with. So then when you're working on little projects like this, you just pull out that bag and you have little flowers or little berries or different things to choose from for little projects, and you don't have to go and cut apart like any of your new bigger floral picks or anything like that. So that's what I did here. I just found some cute little odds and ends that would work for these. I kind of went with the color scheme of each pumpkin to match that as best I could, and just glued some little berries, some little leaves and flowers. And look at how cute these turned out. What a fun little way to turn these into a pumpkin. You might even have a whole box full of these, or you're going through grandma's house and you might find some that nobody's going to use anymore, and voila, you can make some darling cute little pumpkins. They're so fun. They'd be perfect for a tiered tray, and I think they would be perfect to tuck into your kitchen shelf somewhere and have as a fun little fall decor item. What do you guys think of these?
This is such a fun and easy hack and a great way to display some mini wreaths that you might find, because I feel like fall time especially, there are so many beautiful little wreaths that I just love them. It brings that cozy feel into your home, and it's such a great way to bring in some florals and some softness to your decor. Now I've just cut all of the tags off of this, and I'm just deciding on the type of ribbon that I want to use, and so that's just kind of a matter of personal preference, but you will need some ribbon to do this hack with to be able to hang your wreath. I'm going to hang it on my cupboard door in my kitchen. So I am just getting a length of ribbon. I think I get a little bit too much to begin with here. So once you get used to hanging the ribbons on your cupboard door, you'll kind of be able to eyeball a decent length that you want. It's easier, of course, though, to start with a little too much and take some off than it is to start with too little and having to cut more ribbon. But I'm just going to feed this ribbon through my wreath here and then tie it off at the top. And then I just go ahead and tie it with a knot. Now, I love to use a zip tie when I tie these off to hang these, and I'll show you the hack that I use to hang these. That's kind of what the big hack is here. But a zip tie works well because I'm going to use a command hook, and it hooks really well rather than the ribbon that I use is usually a little too thick, especially with this type of ribbon. You just want to make sure that your ribbon is going to lie flat on the front of your cupboard. You're not going to see this tied end that's going to be on the inside of your cupboard. So I snip mine down so it looks a little bit prettier, but again, your cupboards are going to be closed unless you open them, but I mean, you typically don't have people opening and going through your cupboards. So here is the zip tie. I'm just going to feed this through the knot there. That way it can hang at the angle, making the ribbon lie flat here. So I leave my zip tie open done. I don't usually tighten them. I just kind of leave them pretty wide. Just kind of depends on how far you want this to hang down. Now you can see these are just the command hooks. They do sell a different brand at Dollar Tree that you can use. I just didn't have any of those because my kids steal them all the time. But you want to do this upside down. This is the big part of the hack here. So you want to have this, you can kind of, I'm doing my best to do this one-handed to show you that you want your hook to be hanging upside down. So I also place the sticker on upside down. And then you want to go down 3 or 4 inches from your cupboard. You don't want this at the very top. You want your ribbon to be able to hang flat, and you're going to hang this with that hook upside down. You can kind of see I'm showing you here. That way, when your ribbon comes around, you'll see exactly what I'm doing here. Sometimes it's easier to see it than to explain it. But that zip tie goes right over that hook there and hangs, and then you just want to make sure that everything goes flat. You don't want that knot to be in the way of where your cupboard door closes, so that's why you want to hang that a little bit lower. And then depending on where you want your wreath to set, that's where you determine the length of your ribbon. So you can see how beautiful this looks, such an easy hack to do. And once you have your command hooks on there, you get to change this out for whatever season that you want. Maybe you just like some plain greenery. I love to do this at Christmas time and have all of those different wreaths, but it's just as simple as having an upside down command hook on the back of your cupboard. What do you guys think of this hack? You're going to love how simple and how quick this project is, and the impact that it makes is absolutely stunning. I just have an average pumpkin. You can pick these up anywhere really, Walmart, Dollar Tree, any craft store, and the size you use is just depending on what you're looking for. I'm using also some preserved moss as well as some spray adhesive. The first thing I'm going to do is remove this stem. You may want to hang on to this because you can use this to put back on the pumpkin at the end. I have a little something different that I'm going to use with this one, so I'm still going to hang on to this stem because you never know when you're redoing pumpkin crafts if you need a cute pumpkin stem to stick on something. So I just have a little bag that I use that I keep all of those in. So now that I have that stem removed, I'm just going to open up this moss here. Now you can pick up like reindeer moss at Dollar Tree that you can use. That would work very well for a project like this. You may just want to snip it up and cut it into littler pieces to work with in segments. But this is just preserved moss. You can pick this up at any craft store or craft section at Walmart or anywhere like that. So and you can see that there's some fun little items found in there. So I'm just going to take my pumpkin and working in sections, I'm just going to spray this adhesive. You want a pretty liberal amount because you just want to make sure that you're getting enough on there to hold this moss. And then just working in sections, you're just going to gently place this on there. And I hold it down a little bit just to make sure it gets like that tacky feel, like so it starts to hold, that glue starts to pick it up. This glue works really quickly. That's why you want to work in small sections. And I just want to make sure that I push firmly so it has a really good hold, so that way pieces are not falling off. And as you do this, you may want to wear gloves if you're worried about getting the adhesive on your fingers or your hands at all. I didn't have too much of a problem washing my hands, having it come off, but I did have quite a bit of the moss stick to my fingers with a little bit of glue that I would get that would seep through the moss. So just be aware of that as you're doing this. I love the idea of bringing the outdoors in and having this natural, organic look to a pumpkin. I've seen these in higher end stores and boutiques. They go for a lot of money. And this really, you can make this as inexpensive as you want, depending on the size of pumpkin. You may even already have a pumpkin at your house that you could try this with. I did buy this at 50% off with Hobby Lobby in their fall sale. So I think it was just a few dollars that I paid. So not very much money to have a really nice high-end looking piece. Plus it probably took me about 20-25 minutes at the most, I think, from start to finish with this project, so it goes pretty quick too. As you can see, maybe underneath I'm working with like a cookie sheet that I have to kind of contain all of the moss, just to keep the mess to a minimum. So as you're doing this project, you may want to do something similar, so that way you're not sweeping up moss for days to come. When I feel like I have a section completely put together with the moss, I just turn the pumpkin a little bit to the side. I spray down the next section with a very liberal amount of that spray glue, and then just work in pieces putting that moss on. You can see how simple this really is. And then as I'm just showing you here that as you get to the end, you kind of just squeeze in the moss, just fit it into the little areas. I like the fact that this was a white pumpkin, so the contrast was really nice against that green, so I could see if there were any gaps or any areas that I missed. You would just go back if there was a spot that you're noticing that you missed and spray it with the adhesive pretty good, and then just stick some more moss on there, layering it on top of the other. I cover the entire pumpkin, including the top and the bottom. You could possibly leave a little bit of the bottom if you want this to sit very flat. I don't really have a problem with it not sitting flat, but that is an option if you depending on what your surface you're going to set this on, that you wouldn't have to do the very ring around the bottom there. You could leave that open, but I just went ahead and filled everything in completely. After you feel like you've got all of your pumpkin covered, do just spin it around, check for any holes or any areas there, and this is how it looks when I'm layering all of that on. Once I'm done, I spray the complete exterior of this pumpkin with the glue. This is going to hold the moss in place so you have minimal shedding from this pumpkin here. I've also heard of using hairspray to possibly do this, so keep that in mind. I did just, once I sprayed that glue, I rolled up all the little extra pieces of the moss that were there, and then I went ahead and sprayed it again just to make sure that I had another layer of glue on the outside to keep all of that moss on the pumpkin and not on my floor. Now I have this stick, I picked this up at my farm. I thought this would be a really fun type of stem for the pumpkin. Since it is styrofoam in the middle, it took just a little bit of finagling for me to get that stem in there and push it in really good. And then to kind of create a little bit more of a fun organic look around the stem so it didn't look so harsh moving from that grass to the stem, I used some Spanish moss around this. You could glue this down. It sticks very well. It adheres kind of to the texture of the moss. So as I put that in and got my stem all straightened up, I realized I probably didn't need to glue that down, but you definitely could. And I'm just spinning it around to make sure that everything looks really good. I'm really pleased with how this turned out. You'll have to let me know in the comments if you like seeing these different variations of pumpkins. I think it is so fun to come up with different textures and unconventional and unique ideas to bring different types of pumpkins into your decor, and I think this would be a great addition or element to your fall decor. What do you guys think of this one? I'm truly loving it. This is a fall recreation of one of my more popular tiered tray DIYs. This is one of those gnomes that you pick up at Dollar Tree that has a very questionable paint job. I'm just putting some white paint all over him to start with a blank canvas. Now, as I was doing this, my sweet daughter walked in and she goes, "Mom, I've been creating too." And she made this darling little flower for me just by folding some different paper. I thought I would just show it here because it was just so sweet that she brought this to me. And the little flower was having a little hard time sticking onto the stem, so I thought I would just glue it together. But I thought this was so sweet that she brought this to me to have to sit on my little craft table while I was making some DIYs. So I thought I would just leave this in here and share this cute little moment with you guys as well. Okay, back to painting our cute little guy here. I'm just going to make sure that I get a complete good coat of this white paint. If I need to do two. But this is such a fun project to do for any of these resin pieces. If you're not specifically into gnomes, any resin piece that you find at Dollar Tree or Target's Dollar Spot or Dollar General or anywhere, this is something you could do with all of these pieces and make it look a lot more neutral, more farmhouse, and kind of more your style. Now, to bring a fall touch into him, I'm just going to paint his hat with a pumpkin orange color, just so that way when he sits on my tiered tray, he looks specifically more for fall, rather than the one I had done before was just left all white, just kind of more of a neutral, which is cute, but I thought it would be fun to have some for different seasons. So even like for Christmas, you could do a really cute like green or red hat on there. Now, after your paint's dried, you're just going to take your water-based antiquing wax. I just use Folk Art or Waverly, and I'm just going to take just like a stiff bristled brush and get this antiquing wax all over him everywhere. He's going to look like he's a chocolate bar by the time that you're done with this. So you're putting so much antiquing wax on him. And you just let that sit for a minute or two to kind of solidify a little bit. And then you're just going to take either a wet cloth, a wet wipe, a paper towel, and you're just going to wipe that antiquing wax back. And what's going to happen is it's going to stay in all of those little nooks and crannies, and it's going to make this look almost like stone, like it's been aged, sitting out, aging for a long time. Kind of like he's been sitting in your garden, bringing you good luck for a really long time, and now we're going to bring him in the house. And if you do feel like the antiquing wax is a little heavy, just take a little bit of your white paint. This is just what was left in my brush, and I just went over the high points to kind of brighten up those high points of all of that detail. But look at how cute he looks. I mean, you guys know that some of those paint jobs on those Dollar Tree gnomes or Dollar Tree items are pretty sketchy looking, and I just think he turned out so cute. Perfect to tuck into your tiered tray somewhere. And the possibilities with knowing this little trick and this little hack are endless with the different things that you can make and create. And even just by doing that little touch of his hat to make it more fall, you could do anything for any season. I'm really excited about this project because I've been wanting to do it for a while now, and I've just kind of been thinking in my head what the easiest way to possibly do this would be. Now you can see my bag of beads here. This is an old Christmas tree garland that we had. Literally, we had this on my tree growing up, that my mom updated her tree and handed me the garland. And so I took all of these beads. They kind of have a glossy finish to them, but they're perfect to paint over. But you could easily use something like this from Dollar Tree or some of their beads or anything you can find. But I just take them and I'm putting them on these little like barbecue skewers because this is how I'm going to paint them. So use whatever colors of paint you want. I use like a Merlot color, a pumpkin orange, like a corn yellow, and then just some antiquing wax. So those are the 4 colors that I ended up using, but it makes really quick work of going ahead and painting these on these skewers. And then you could see I even just used my heat tool to help dry those. So this is just some wire. It's fencing wire that my husband uses on the farm. So I just kind of steal a roll of it at a time when I feel like I need it for a project. And I end up using 3 pieces of it here. And I kind of wrap these around each other. And I mean, I didn't really know like a super great way to do this, but it ends up working pretty good. I just used some pliers there to kind of clamp it down so that way they weren't really like, they were kind of fixed together. And then, not paying attention to what color I was grabbing at all, I just went ahead and randomly picked beads to thread onto each of these 6 now you have 6 strands that you can put beads onto. So I just randomly picked colors and put them on there without even looking. In fact, I was talking to my little boy, not even paying attention. So that way you truly do get a random color. And then when you finish, I just bent the little end of that wire up so that way your beads don't come falling off of there. And I just go around the entire thing here and do the same thing. Takes you really no time at all to thread all of those on. Now I am just taking them all and picking them all up here by the little bit of wire that's left at the top. You can kind of see some of my beads are falling off of there. It's all right, because I think I end up taking some off actually at the end here, because I didn't have enough wire here. So I feel like no matter what you do, like you're going to end up with enough beads. If you fill 4 barbecue skewers of beads there, you're going to totally have enough, even some left over. So you can see here, I think this is where I end up taking some off because I just want to make sure that I have enough wire to wrap together. And again, I got to this point and I didn't really know if you can think of a better way to do this, then go with that. But I just had one of the wires that was a little bit taller than all the rest, and so I took the most beads off of that one, and then I just started to wrap it around the other one. So you'll see kind of how I do that here. To make sure it was tight and I was getting it wrapped as tight as I could, I reached for, you can see I grabbed some pliers here and just grab onto that wire and help use that to go around the rest of them to make sure that it's clamping as close as it can. You just want to make sure that it comes to a point at the top with your wires and that it's not going to, your beads aren't going to fall off or anything there. And if you need to trim any of your beads or anything like that, or sand them so you don't have any sharp edges, I mean, definitely do that. You just want to make sure that, again, your beads aren't going to be coming off of there, and like the natural shape of the corn on the cob, how it comes to a point, that's what I was going for. At this point, I was super excited with how it was looking. I mean, it looks like a real little ear of corn there. I just thought it was so cute. So you could easily leave it like this. You could even take some raffia to tie on the top of it or the end of it or something like that. I guess you'd want to tie it on the end of it. That would be a super easy way. I happen to have, this is faux, like I wanted to call it corn silk, but it's not corn silk, like corn husk, I guess. So this is just, it's kind of like, it looks like real, it feels like real, but honestly when you look at it you can tell it's like a fabric that they've coated with something. But I know I've seen it at the craft stores and even at Walmart, actual corn husks you could get that you could use, so just keep that in mind. But I'm just cutting some of these pieces down and then I'm gluing them together because I want them to go kind of on either side. So I'm just taking the pieces and kind of shaping it how I wanted it shaped to be able to go on my ear of corn. You can see that I'll take it and I kind of match it up with my corn. I mean, look at how, I mean, isn't this coming together so cute? I just think this is so fun. So I kind of decided that I wanted a little bit more than just that one there. And so I have to glue each of these together here. So just using hot glue to do that. And I just kind of play around and have a little bit of fun with it and just kind of go for what feels good, I guess. And you can see here I have another little piece that I've got built up, and so these are going to go on the back of my corn. I'll show you here in just a second how I put all of these together with the ear of corn. Now that I've got a couple of these sections built up the way that I want them, I am just going to glue them together to make one big kind of fan almost. And they have wire at the bottom, so I'm just kind of bending them so that way I can get a really good bond between the two of them. And then I'll put a little bit of glue down on them, and by a little bit, I actually put quite a bit here because I wanted to make sure this stuck really well. And you just want to make sure that where you're putting the glue, you're just going to face your beads so that way they stick to that glue so you can get a really good bond between them, and so this isn't going to come off. But I mean, just looking at this, you guys, I mean, this turns out so darling. I mean, I can't be more pleased with how this turned out. It was kind of one of those projects that I really didn't know what I was doing going into it. But hey, I think it turns out so fun. So there's just a couple of other little pieces here that were left over, and I went ahead and just glued a couple more onto the side just to make it more full. I think that whatever you have to go with, and even if you wanted to skip this step completely, your corn's still going to look really, really cute. There was a couple little extra pieces that were really small and teeny, and so I just rounded off the bottom of them with my scissors, and I'm just going to glue them coming up the bottom of the corn, and that's going to give a nice finished look to the base of the corn. And then I'll take some glue and glue each of those little teeny curlied ones. I mean, that's what they are. They kind of have this curly ends to them. And so I just kind of fold this over. Looks like it has legs right there, doesn't it? But I just put a little dab of glue on each of these and just carefully push them up into the beads. So that way it looks like you've got a little bit more of that husk coming in the front. For kind of piecing this together as I went along and not really knowing what I was doing, I think it turned out really cute. I would be so excited to know if any of you guys tried this or came up with any other hacks to doing it. I think this looks absolutely beautiful, and you really could leave this up all the way through Thanksgiving. I mean, how pretty would this look in a tablescape at Thanksgiving, your Thanksgiving table? What do you guys think of this one? I am so excited to show you this project because it is so fun and simple, and it turns out so cute. So I'm just showing you that I took some paint sticks and I just cut them down to size. You could easily use some craft sticks or the jumbo craft sticks if you would like. But these bigger sticks I have right here, not sticks, these are like the planks. I think they're just like wood planks. They come 6 or so in a package from Dollar Tree. So I'm just taking 3 of those and I'm just kind of spacing them, you can see, with a little bit of space so it kind of looks like a palette, but I'm also staggering the length. So I push that middle one down just a little bit so that way it kind of gives it the shape of a pumpkin is what I'm going for here. Now this is going to be the back, so again you can use the craft sticks, but I just thought those paint sticks, if you could see those through the little space that I provided there, I liked that. Now I'm just using a pumpkin color of chalk paint here, and I'm just going to paint this front and back, make sure it's completely covered. And then I just like to, if you guys have watched me, you know I love to distress everything. So I just take my little emery board and I go all over each of the edges, also in between the little grooves that I left there to kind of give it that worn and farmhouse touch. Now, like a lot of crafters I know, I have a hard time throwing anything away. So this is just a piece off of one of the little sponge tools, the painting tools that I use. And so I'm just sanding the edges so it kind of gives it a fun little softer shape to it. And then I'm just going to paint this with just some green moss colored chalk paint. And this is just going to be the cute little stem to my pumpkin. So I just go ahead and paint this, and then I distress it a little bit. And then I'm just going to use some hot glue, and then I'm just going to glue that on. And I put my glue down, and I kind of then space my pumpkin to make sure that none of the glue is showing up over the edge or anything, and that it's a good height to the pumpkin there. So now comes the fun part of embellishing this. So I'm just taking a leaf off of one of the Dollar Tree picks that I had from fall. You use any kind of leaf or anything, even some like a fabric leaf would be really cute. And I'm just gluing that on with some hot glue, and just kind of softens the look of it. And I'll just take a little extra glue here, glue down any parts that are sticking up kind of how I don't want them. And then I thought it would be really cute to use some Spanish moss. So I'm just putting a little bit of glue onto the top of the pumpkin, and then you can see here I'm just putting a little bit of glue on the back. And I'll use my little silicone tool here just to push that down. And then I have this cute little pipberry that I had that came, I got this at Hobby Lobby, but I have seen some at Dollar Tree. So if you can get some there, definitely do that. And I just kind of wrap it around like my brush to give it a little curly Q type of style to it. And I just wrap it on that little stem there, and I thought that just kind of was cute, acted like a little pumpkin vine or something, just a cute little embellishment on there. I love having projects like this and getting to use your creativity to kind of embellish and decorate them. Now I'm just taking some raffia, and I'm just going to tie this in a knot around that little stem. And I left it long because I wanted to kind of see how much I needed to cut off. So after I get that tied off, I just kind of eyeball it and do my best judge on like where I want to cut it. And then you can kind of crinkle this with your fingers or to anything you want to do to give it a little bit more of a farmhouse look. But I just take the extra pieces that I have and tie just like a little shoestring, like a loop bow there, and tie a little piece around it. To me, this is the easiest way to tie raffia rather than to actually try and tie the bow. And then I'm just using some hot glue to glue that right over the knot that I tied before. Now this would be really cute to kind of lean up against something, or you could even add it to another sign if you had made a bigger sign, but I just take a little tumbling tower block and glue that onto the back to help it stand. Look at how adorable this turns out. I love it, and it was not that much money to create, so you could definitely do this on a budget, and I think it turns out so cute, and it is definitely that perfect farmhouse fall touch. This is such a simple DIY. I hope that you try this because it was so fun. Now, I did find this wire in the jewelry section at Walmart, but you could easily just use, zip ties, you could just use twine to tie these off with however you wanted. I end up making 8 loops. I start out with 6, but realize I need more, just of some jute twine. So this is just twine that came from Dollar Tree. I wrap it around each of my hands 20 times. So you could do more or less depending on your style, but just so you know, I did 20 times that I wrapped around, and then I snipped it off, and then I just kind of tied it off with that wire. I wrapped that around so that way it stayed in place. But again, you could just use a short piece of jute twine to tie these off in the middle, so you wouldn't have to buy an extra thing of wire or anything if you didn't have that on hand. Now, after you get all of your rings, now remember that I end up doing 8, but I started with 6. I'm just going to use some hot glue and glue each of these together in the center. So where you have tied these together, either with your wire or the twine, I'm just using a little bit of glue. If you need to use your silicone finger protectors, do that because you are working very close with your fingers and the hot glue. So just pay attention to that. But I just waited for each little section to dry before gluing on the next section. And I decided to glue 3 and then 3. So I was doing like one half of the pumpkin and then the other half of the pumpkin. And so you can kind of see how I did that here. Now, depending on how tightly or the size of your hands or your loops, however you did your loops here, 6 may be enough. But when I got them together, I just realized that I wanted to have it a little bit more full. At this point, I just glued them to a stick that I found in my yard. It looked like a really cute pumpkin stem. So I'm gluing those first 3 onto this one here. And then I just put some glue around and I will glue this other half onto the pumpkin. This is when I got them together. And you can see I reached my fingers through to kind of grip those together around that stem. But you can kind of see the side of my pumpkin there that it really did just need another loop in there. So again, I just wrapped it around 20 times. I tied it off either with my wire or or your jute twine, and then I just kind of reached in and glued it in. Once I added that, you can kind of see I felt like it needed another one to kind of make it a little bit more even. So again, the same process. This would be something so fun to do with like kids or grandkids. You of course would want to just help them with the hot glue part, but I mean, they could easily wrap the twine around and everything and make these cute little pumpkins that ends up being so darling. I absolutely just love how this turns out. So this last one I did with just tying the twine on there. So if you need to rewind that to see, but that does show you kind of how I tied the twine on instead of using the wire. So I glue that one in and I just fluff it up a little bit to kind of make sure that it looks as full as I want it. And then I just wanted to put some hot glue around here because I'm adding some Spanish moss. I've been loving using Spanish moss in my fall decor. I don't know if it's just that it gives it a special softness or if it looks like pumpkin vines or what it is, but I've really enjoyed it. And I do just trim it up because I don't like it to be too wild and out of control. And then I have this pick that's from Dollar Tree, and I love these little silvery greenish blue leaves. So you can see I'm just putting some glue on the end of that, and I'll glue that in just as a little bit of the pumpkin leaf there to kind of add a different color to it. I'm just really pleased with how it looks. And I felt like it needed a little something else, so I just take some raffia and I'm just making a little bow. So I just kind of loop it around several times and then just tie that off in the center. This just adds another little bit of texture to it. I felt like the bow just kind of sets it off there a little bit, and I really love how that looks on there. I just think this turns out absolutely adorable, especially for how simple it was to make. It would be so cute sitting on a coffee table, just a perfect decor. This would be perfect to leave out for Thanksgiving, even all season long. What do you guys think of this one? I love that Dollar Tree is starting to carry these cutting board signs. I love making them over. They are cute the way they are, but it is always fun to kind of make them match your decor and customize them a little bit. So I'm just flipping this one over and I'm just using my heat gun, and I'm just using this to heat up that sticker on the back because I'm going to make the back the front. I'm just going to cover it in my base color of paint. I'm choosing just to do plaster from Waverly's chalk paint, and I just give it 2 or 3 coats to make sure that it is covered how I would like it. And I want to put some orange stripes on the bottom of this. I thought that would be really cute for fall. These will all take you from fall right into Thanksgiving, so you can leave them up all through the season. And I'm just taking some pumpkin color chalk paint, and I am just using my little stencil tool here. This is just one of those little packages you get at the Dollar Tree, these little foam brushes here, the circular size, and I'm just pouncing up and down with a little bit of paint on there and just making sure that I don't overdo it with the paint and do a couple of coats. And you can see that there is no bleed through at all. Once that's dry, I'll stick on another piece of tape just a little bit lower, and then I'm just making a little ticking stripe here. I thought it would be cute to kind of have 2 littler stripes below that main stripe. So I just kind of eyeball the size. If you're someone who likes to measure and be perfect and exact, go ahead and measure. I just kind of eyeballed it. I figured that it's going to be sitting up in my china hutch or in my cupboard. It'll probably have some things in front of it. So if they weren't quite even, it was okay, but I think for eyeballing it, it ends up pretty good. I found these darling little cookie cutters at Dollar Tree. I don't make cookies a whole lot, so I bought these with the pure intent to decorate with them, so I'm going to use them on this cutting board here. But I realized I need to put some craft paper on the back, which was the front of the sign. This has some glitter on it. You can try and sand it off and everything if you want. I found that it's easier. I just use Elmer's school glue, which you guys, if you've watched me before, know that I'm obsessed with that stuff. I use it all the time. And then I just do some hot glue around the edge, and I'll take my brayer and just kind of go over while that glue is still pliable. That helps the sign stick all over, and it's not going to come off or curl up or anything. And then I just am taking my little emery board here and I go around the edges. This is sped up. It is a slow motion that I do, but you just want to sand away from the back of the cutting board. That's going to give you a nice crisp line. Once I get that sanded away, then I'll kind of go over the side of it to make sure that all of that comes off. So now I'm just taking my cookie cutters here and I'm just tying some twine to them so I can dangle them from the cutting board. You can see that I added some jute twine at the top there. Don't worry, I end up removing that because of how I want to stick these on. I'm realizing now that there's not really a way for me to stick the twine from these tied together, and I just stagger them, as you can see here. But there's not really a way for me to slide that up through. I tied it too tight, and so I just remove that from the back of it, and then I'm just going to decide where I want those to hang from, and I'm going to tie off that twine there. And then I'm just going to hot glue this on the sign. You'll see exactly how I do that here. just trim the top of that little twine off, and then I can go back and wrap the jute twine around the top of my cutting board here on the handle. And you can use ribbon, you can use twine, you can use nautical rope, whatever you would like. And I just tie that off in the back, and then I just cut it fairly close. If you want to add a little bit of hot glue to make sure it's not going to come undone, that's fine. And that just allows these cookie cutters to kind of hang down here as a little decoration on this. I thought those were really cute. I felt like it needed a little something extra, so I'm going to make a scrap bow. So I'm just taking various ribbons from the Dollar Tree's fall line. Now that gingham check ribbon, I do believe I got at Hobby Lobby. I have not been lucky enough to find the black and white that they have at Dollar Tree, so definitely keep your eye out for that. I've gotten like yellow and white and red and white, but I've never gotten the black and white. And then I also add just a little strand of pitberry on here, so that way I can kind of twirl it up like some pumpkin vines once I get that on. So I kind of cut it down to size. I'm just cutting all of the ribbons just a little bit at an angle. You can dovetail them. However you want to do a ribbon on this is great. And then for the center of it, I had just tied it off with twine. I'm just taking that orange gingham there, and I am just taking it and putting it over the edge and gluing it in the back. So that just kind of makes it have a nice little center there. And then I just use hot glue to glue that on the top there, and you can see I missed a couple strands. So I just go back in and kind of cut those up. Apparently I forgot to show you where I just used a pencil and I just twirled that pitberry around it, so that way it came up with a little curly Q on those. And then I'm just tying the little handle on the top. Now you could spray some water on this. It will help it lie a little bit more flat, because sometimes your twine gets kind of rolled up in the roll there. But look at how cute this looks. Of course, it's not food safe. It's just a sign from Dollar Tree that we made into our own custom sign. It's going to be darling to kind of bring that fall feel into your kitchen. So this is kind of a decorating hack as well as a DIY. And by DIY, I mean that in the simplest of forms. Hobby Lobby has these darling little wreaths. They have them for all different seasons. I've seen them also like at Walmart, Michael's, Joann's, Dollar Tree once upon a time, but I haven't seen them there for years. I also found these cute little cutting or charcuterie boards at Hobby Lobby. I found this little sign blank there as well, so I picked that up, and I loved the buffalo check design on this. If you don't have a cutting board or you want to have a patterned one like that buffalo checked one, I will leave a link to a video down in my description box where I did decoupage some craft paper onto a cutting board from IKEA that turned out super cute. But all you're going to do is just take one of these wreaths and you're going to wrap the jute twine, kind of bend the jute twine in half, and then wrap the little loop around and pull the tails through. So you can kind of watch what I do here. And then you're going to just use this as a decoration on the cutting board. So at first on this circular one, I was going to tie it around the neck, and then realized with that fun little handle on there that I would wrap it through. And I love how this looks. So it's just me wrapping this around the top, and then I do tie it off, and I use a little dot of hot glue to hold this on, because I want to be able to change the wreath out as the seasons go, or maybe not even have a wreath if I decide at some point that it's too much or I want a more simplistic look. On this cute little charcuterie board that has the buffalo check, I love the orange with this black and white here. I just think that totally screams fall, and even a little bit of Halloween if you're not one to decorate with necessarily Halloween decorations, but like to have the color scheme. It's perfect. So this just shows you up close how I get this on here. It's so easy. You just loop that through and you pull the tails through. And that just makes it so you don't have to really untie anything. You can just kind of pull that loose when you're ready to change this out. And this will be so fun. I will definitely change this one out because I have buffalo check for my winter decoration. So I will be able to put a Christmas wreath or tag or something on here. And then of course you just take it around the neck and you just tie it in just a knot. And I mean, how much simpler can you get than that? But I love the way it looks, and it is so stylish right now with the different cutting boards and charcuterie boards to have them layered and stacked like in your hutch or on your against your backsplash in your kitchen. And how fun would that be on one of them to have a darling wreath? Now, I don't expect you to be tying a wreath to like all of your cutting boards, you know, just kind of do it a little bit sparingly. But this just shows you the different looks and the different ideas to hopefully inspire you. Now, if you don't have a cutting board and you don't have a way to get one, or you happen to have a sign blank at home, this is another way to get it on. You're going to use one of these little command hooks. I didn't even have any more of the backings that go on them, so I just use a little bit of hot glue to hot glue it onto the sign. So I kind of place my wreath and get an idea of where how low I want the little hook to go, and then I just add a little bit of hot glue to get that to adhere. So simple, so easy. Now the main part of the wreath is a little too thick to fit in the command hook, so you're just going to find one of the little vines that's there and kind of pull it up to be able to hook over that. And then these are all have wire in them, the branches, so you're easily able to kind of mold them and cover that up so you can't see that. You can kind of strategically place a leaf if you need to or something. But this, I mean, you could take the ties off of this and use this anywhere. You could hang it. But just to add a little bit of fall that is so easy and something that looks a little bit custom, not just a plain wreath, but dress it up a little bit with something, if that makes sense. I just think this looks so fun, and not only so fun, but I just think it's darling. Here's all three looks together. Which one of these would you like in your home? I think these are so cute and so simple and literally no skill, guys. Anybody can do this. Most excited for you guys to see this one today. So you can see that I have drawn a triangle on a couple pieces of scrap wood that I have. I do 3 of them and cut them out with my table saw. And then I sand the edges to make them have a little bit of a rounded look to them and make the wood a lot more smooth. I am then taking, I believe this is a hazelnut color of the chalk paint, and I just water it down. This makes it just more of a stain to go on the wood. I want this to look like pie crust. We are going to make a slice of pumpkin pie out of these blocks of wood. They're kind of like triangle blocks, I guess. But I do take some pumpkin Waverly chalk paint, and I do add a little bit of the antiquing wax to it just to kind of give it a little bit of a darker tone so it's not so bright. And I do cover the next 2 triangles completely, all sides, front and back. I do take these little half beads, I have 5 of them, and I do just wipe what's left over of that hazelnut kind of stain that I've made out of the hazelnut chalk paint there, and I do wipe down each of those. I do glue each of my layers together here, so I just use wood glue and then a little bit of hot glue. And then my first layer goes on really well. So I lay that on, and then I do lay it on my table to push it down, make sure it's all level on that front layer that everybody's gonna see. On this next layer, it kind of doesn't adhere as well in the beginning. It kind of I don't know if there's just some uneven spots or what it was, but when I go to push this down, it doesn't want to kind of push towards the other one, if that makes sense. You kind of can see there's a little bit of a gap there. So I do get out my wood clamps there and clamp it together. And then I do just take these little half beads and glue them on for a little bit of pie crust embellishment here. I just start with the middle one. I just use wood glue and kind of work my way out on those. I have this little burlap flower from the wedding section at Hobby Lobby, so I'm just going to glue that on, and as I do, I totally drop it. And it actually ends up being like a happy little accident because it kind of took off a little bit of the glue, so it was able to go on, and it did not like bunch all around or come seeping out or anything like that. I take just a little bit of burlap ribbon and kind of fold it over here kind of roughly, if you will. I'm not really sure what technique you would call this, but I do just glue it onto the back. This just kind of helps give it a little bit of that pie crust look on the back. That little flower acts as the whipped cream on there. I just think this turned out so cute. I'm loving how this is coming along so far. This part would be completely optional, but I did use my Cricut and cut out the words fresh pumpkin pie, and I did just put that on each of the little layers there. I thought that that kind of turned out so cute, kind of a little take on the little books or crates that you see. I think this turned out so cute. I absolutely love this. Is one of my most favorite pieces I've made. Hiding in my stash, I found this Easter tag sign from Dollar Tree. I'm just going to take my emery board and file off as much glitter as I can. I then will take some of this brown craft paper and I will cut it to size. And then in order to make this fit the best that I can, I'm just going to lay it on my sign and I will run my finger over the edge of the sign to indent that shape of the sign into the paper. So when I go cut it with my scissors, I can get the closest shape that I can. To adhere this to the sign, I'm going to use just some trusty old glue stick and some hot glue. I'm going to do this for a couple of reasons. First and foremost is there is a lot of glitter that is on this sign, and this will contain any that is left. We all know how much Dollar Tree loves their glitter. I swear they must own stock in a glitter company or something because they use a lot of glitter. So it will contain that. And the next is it's just obviously going to cover the design that is there up. It takes less paint and it is going to make it look a little bit more high end, kind of take it to the next level. So I just put my hot glue around the edge. And then once I place that craft paper down, I use my Mod Podge roller to flatten that out a little bit. And that just really helps adhere that. Then I'll just take my emery board and in a downward motion, I will just file off the edges of that craft paper, and that's going to give it that very crisp look. On the top and the bottom of the sign, I am going to put this cute little pumpkin craft paper that I did get from Hobby Lobby, and I'm using my ruler to get as straight of line as I can, and then to keep that straight line, I will just use the edge of the paper. You can kind of see how I'm doing that there. And then the same thing, I will just rub my finger over the edge of the sign to indent that, and I will go in with my scissors and cut it as close as I can. And then same thing on this paper to get that crisp edge. I just use my emery board. You can use a finger sander, sandpaper, anything that you like that works, and just do it in a downward motion softly, and that will just give you that crisp, clean edge. And then I will do the same thing on the bottom of this to add that same craft paper. So again, I just line my little paint stir stick there up on the edge of my tag sign and then kind of eyeball where I want my paper to go up to. And then I will use the other straight edge of this paper to use as my top line. That will give it that crisp, clean, straight edge on the top there. You can see how I do that. And then of course the same motions here. Put your finger or to indent the sign, and then actually I guess this one I don't really need to do that because you can just cut it since it's straight as close to the edge, and then you'll just sand off the edges of the paper like this. So I did use my Cricut cutting machine. You can use any type of rub-on transfers or stickers. If you are at all familiar with my channel, you know that I absolutely cannot freehand things no matter how hard I try. It is very frustrating to me. And as much as I would love to perfect that, I just don't have the patience to do it. So I did use this little design that was in Cricut Design Space to cut these words out. So, and if you guys have been here for a little while, you know that I have lost my Cricut scraping tool and I found it. So I'm so excited that that is back in my life and I can stop using my hotel key momentarily until I lose it again, I'm sure. So I'm just going to push this down onto my sign here. Farm Fresh Pumpkin Patch. I just love the font that was on that. And then it also had this little You Pick sign that I'm going to put down there on the bottom. And as you can see in the upper left-hand corner, I have this darling little truck that I got from Hobby Lobby. I think it was like $2.99, and then of course they're 40% off. I'm just going to glue this on there. It will give it that cute little three-dimensional look. And I'm just using hot glue for this. And I thought this was the perfect way to use this little truck. It would also be super cute on like a tiered tray or something. But I just love this little sign that I'm making. And I'm just using my little weeding tool. You could use whatever to stick through where that hole is up at the top of your tag sign, because I'm going to use some rope to stick through here so that way we can hang our tag. So any kind of twine or string or whatever you have that you want to use to do this with will work. I just unraveled some Dollar Tree rope and tied a knot into the end of one of the little strands, and then I just stuck it through as you saw there. And then on the knot portion, I just put a little bit of hot glue under that. That's going to make that knot so it doesn't slip up at all. You never see it and it'll stay secure. And then just do some Mod Podge. You probably maybe want to do that before you glue your truck on, but I kind of forgot. But what do you guys think of this? I'm just smitten with this. I think it's absolutely darling. I got these at Hobby Lobby. I got this cute little white pumpkin. They had lots of different colors, and this is in the bridal section, over kind of by the bridal section. They have these little succulent bouquets and then little sprigs over there. So I just waited until those were 50% off to do this. So I'm just going to remove the stem on this pumpkin. They are styrofoam under whatever painted surface this is on them. So I just removed the stem, and now I'm just unwrapping this little succulent bouquet, and I'm just going to unwind it and get all of the little sprigs separate. So it's kind of nice because when you get it 50% off for $6, you get all, like, it's all together. You don't have to buy a bunch of little sets of different succulents. It comes all together. It's all matched, I guess is what I'm saying. So I did take my scissors and kind of pop off a little bit of that coating that's on the pumpkin to get down to expose the styrofoam. And then I literally just kind of started playing around, sticking in different succulents. If I needed to trim them down, I used my wire cutters to trim them down. And then I'm just going to keep placing them in and keep going around. Now, when I do get to the little long fern-like leaves like this here that I have, I realized they were very long for what I wanted to do. So I do trim off a couple inches off of the end, and then those little leaves just pull right off. And so you can kind of see, I'm like, that's really long. So you'll see what I'm talking about here. I just trim those with my wire cutters, and those leaves just pull right off to give you another little stem to stick down into your styrofoam. I am just going to let this play so you can watch my thought process with arranging these sprigs of flowers and greenery here. I am not at all like trained in this area at all. I just kind of go for what feels good and what looks right. And so there's really no right or wrong way. That's why I like the simplicity of picking up the little bouquet, is because they're already kind of matched together. So I'll just let you watch kind of how this goes, and hopefully that will help inspire you. So as you can see, I'm having a little bit of trouble with my eucalyptus leaves here. So to fix that, I just put a little hot glue on one of the leaves to attach it. That way it just kind of fills in that negative space that I did not want there. And I did pick up a couple little extra sprigs of the succulents I showed at the beginning of the video in the wedding section to kind of make this a little bit fuller. So you can see how that looks. I just stick the stem back in there. That would be totally optional, but I absolutely love how this turned out. I think it looks so chic and so cute. With this DIY, I'm just taking this little cutting board from Dollar Tree and I'm going to turn it into a pumpkin. So I'm just painting it orange. I'm just using some pumpkin orange colored chalk paint and I'm just going to do front and back, all the sides, everything. Now, if you want to do a variation of a different color of a pumpkin or something, feel free to do that. But I really just kind of wanted to make this one orange. And then I'm just taking one of these paint stir sticks. I buy these in a package there's several of them for like $1 or $1.50 or something. And I just cut one down to about 4 inches and I'm painting that green for the stem. Now, this stencil came from Hobby Lobby. I've actually been really impressed with their stencil section lately. They've kind of upped their game. They've gotten some really cute, fun stencils. But I thought this kind of had like a fun little French country feel to it, little fleur-de-lis type thing. So I'm just taping that on and I'm just wanting this to go along the bottom of the pumpkin to kind of give it that little bit of a French country flair. When I stencil, I like to use painter's tape to hold that stencil in place, and then I just lightly tap up and down, and as you can see here, with just a small amount of paint on your brush. You don't want so much that when you stipple it down that it's going to like smudge paint underneath the stencil. So you want it to be a very light process, and if you have to go over it a couple of times, do that. And then once I'm done, I just peel it back, and I'm so happy with how it turned out. I thought this looked super cute. So I'm just kind of checking where I want the stem, and I'll just use some hot glue to fix that stem on there, and then I just kind of push that down and get that put into place, and it's starting to look like a pumpkin, I think. And now I'm going to put a little bit of embellishment on it because I love to do that. So I'm just gluing some Spanish moss to the top here, and I'll swing that all the way around to the back of that stem, and I'll glue it down there so it's all in place and it goes all the way around the stem. And then I just add a couple extra little things that I've got here for embellishment. These are little sprigs off of a boxwood pick that I bought from I didn't get it at Hobby Lobby. I got it at Walmart. Their boxwood picks are the best, and they're like $1.97, and you can do so many projects out of just one of them. So I'm just gluing those on. I'm just putting this one down because I wanted it to kind of go over the corner of the pumpkin there, and so I'll do that. Now I'm just taking some twine and I wrap that around my fingers several times and tie it in the middle to make a cute little twine bow. I thought that was cute to have a thicker twine bow like this. And then I felt like it needed maybe even something a little extra. So I have this little white pipberry that I have. You can get this Dollar Tree, any craft store really. And I'm just going to wrap it around the stem and kind of twist it so it stays on there. And then using just like a paintbrush, I'm just going to wrap each side around that to kind of make the curly cute little vines of a pumpkin there. And I realized that I had done them kind of long, and so I just trimmed them off to what size I want them to be. And then with the little pieces that I ended up trimming off, I end up just gluing into the top there, so there's a couple of extra little pumpkin vines coming out all around. I just liked the contrast of the white pipberry on this, and I just thought it looked really cute kind of all over the stem there, and that it just kind of was the little touch that it needed. I think this turns out beautifully. I love this. You could do this with any sign that you have or plank wood or anything. Nobody would know that this was a cutting board. And I really think that it has such a French country feel to it, and I just love it. I love how this Dollar Tree fall DIY turns out. So I'm just taking a couple of these little block signs from Dollar Tree. They're different sizes. I thought the staggering size was really cute. Now I did spray that, or rip the paper off first, and then I sprayed with the like residue that was left behind with just some water. And then I'm going in with a baby wipe and a little putty knife here just to scrape that off, so that way I can paint these the color that I want and not have any of that paper residue or glue or anything left behind. So now I'm just measuring out. I want to stagger the size of these pumpkins. So I'm just trying to eyeball how far down I want to do and to see what it looks like. I'm just doing not a full coat of paint because I do want this to look pretty distressed. So I'm just kind of doing like a messy coat on here, I guess, and just kind of making it look really farmhouse, really shabby, that kind of stuff. And so you can, of course, paint these whatever color matches your decor, or if you're like, I do not like that style of the farmhouse paint them solid, whatever you want to do. So now these little pumpkins from Dollar Tree have a lot of glitter on them, and since I am going to paint these to match my colors for fall, I scraped that glitter off of them. Now I did just kind of measure here. You can see how far down I want to cut that sunk up pumpkin. And so I drew my straight line, and then I drew the corners on. I traced those from the other pumpkin so I could cut it down and have it match. So hopefully that makes sense. I just showed you, I just used my little hand miter saw there. I have a link to that down in my description box if you want to check that out on Amazon. I did pick mine up at Lowe's, so if you have like a close I want to say Home Depot, but any type of home improvement store, there we go. Then you can check there. They're like $10-15 or something like that. I love using Waverly's pumpkin and moss for fall decor. I think it has that perfect farmhouse muted tone to it. So I give these just a couple of coats of each of those colors, and then I just sand around the edges. I really liked how it kind of brought out the color they originally were. It kind of was a good contrast, so I was pretty happy with that. And then I'm taking some just white chalk paint here and just doing a really light dry brush to kind of add a little bit of visual interest to them because they were kind of flat and plain looking. And then I did forget to mention, but I think you saw me gluing the stems back on, I did just paint those with some brown paint. Now you can do whatever you would like to do for your lettering on these signs. I just got these from Cricut's Design Space and just cut them out with my cutting machine. You could easily do some handwriting on them, print on tissue paper. I've done several tutorials on that. I've also done water slide decals, anything like that. There's so many different ways to get words onto things. So whatever method you like to use, go ahead and do that. But I just really like the saying Happy Harvest. I thought that was super cute. And then I do just use some wood glue and also some hot glue to get these all glued together. Now you did see me take a little bit of the dry brushing and go over the vinyl letters. That kind of gives it a faded look as well, so it looks like the letters were meant to go on the sign. So just keep that in mind if you're ever doing vinyl on a project you're distressing, to dry brush over the letters a little bit to help them look aged as well. And then I'm just embellishing this just with some ribbon that I had, some cute little black and white buffalo check ribbon I thought was really cute on there, and then just some raffia, and you can see I'm just kind of scrunching that up. I thought it was kind of fun. I also have this cute little pitberry, and I've used this in a couple of projects, and what I love to do with it is wrap it around like the end of your paintbrush or a pencil or something and give it kind of that corkscrew look. And then I just wrapped it around the stem on these, and I love it with the pumpkins because to me it just looks like little pumpkin vines growing. I just think they're super cute, and it's so fun to be able to take these pieces and embellish them however you want to kind of give them that cute little personal touch. I did the same thing on each of them so they matched really well. Then I just glue them together and glue them onto the cute little sign. I absolutely love how this turns out. To me, it looks so high end. It looks like something you would truly buy at a store or at a boutique or out of like a catalog or something. I just think it turned out so cute. It is so fun. It's perfect for fall, and it's something you definitely could leave up the whole season. The most darling yarn was the perfect pumpkin color at the craft store the other day, and I thought, how can I make a little teeny pumpkin? And it kind of came to me that, you could probably just use a pool noodle. So I do kind of cut this down to the size that I want, and then I do just kind of trim around the edges so it's not such a harsh line there, so that way it's kind of a softer, more of a pumpkin shape, I guess you would say. It doesn't have to be super exact. You can kind of, once you get the yarn on here, kind of have a little bit of leeway, like it kind of just looks like a pumpkin because it's orange and you put a little stem on it. So you'll kind of see what I'm talking about. But I do kind of trim this out to kind of make sure that it at least sits flat, so that way you've got a good surface to begin with. This is the yarn that I found. I just love this. It is a thicker yarn. You guys, I know nothing about yarn, so if my yarn lingo is off here, I do apologize because I don't really deal with yarn that much, so I don't know all the terminology. But anyway, I absolutely loved this color, so I do just kind of unravel it here, and I unravel quite a bit because I'm thinking if I'm going to wrap this around, I need a lot to cover so you don't see any of this fluorescent yellow or green or whatever color you would call this. So I just, once you loop it through, I just tie it off and then just cut that little hanging piece off there. And that's how I started out. And then I just put a bunch of the painter's tape on the end of it, so that way you can kind of feed it through. And trust me, by the end, you're going to be glad that you put that on the end, so that way, because it gets pretty thick in the center there, so that way you have something nice to be able to pull it through. So again, this is just as much as like I put it through, I pull it all the way and kind of line it up so that way it stays pretty uniform. You know, I want to say it took me about a half an hour to do this, so it doesn't take a whole long time, but sit and watch like a program while you're doing this, and you just pull it through. Be very, very careful not to get this tangled up, because that is extremely easy to do. But I just pull it through one side and then pull it all the way, turn it and put it through the other, just looping it around. It's not rocket science. It's so easy. And you kind of can see when it comes together, I'm like, oh, this is going to be really cute. I really do think this turned out so fun. And I do, I go all the way around the bottom layer, making sure that that is completely covered. You can see there. And then I just kind of go in with some extra all the way around until I feel like I can't fit any more through. And then as I put it down, I kind of smush it a little bit. But I think it's so cute. And I do, for this one, for the stem, I do take just a little bit of a handle off of one of those foam brushes that I had left over. I've started saving those foam brushes and just cutting the little handles to use as little extra dowel pieces when you need them. So I just cover this in antiquing wax, and then I do take a little bit of hot glue and just stick it down into the pumpkin itself. That way it stays really well there. I just think this turns out so cute. Here's a look at this cute little pumpkin in my tiered tray. I think this turned out absolutely darling, and it's so simple that I think anybody could do this. Thank you for taking the time to watch this compilation mega video. If you have made it this far, I would love if you would consider hitting that subscribe button and becoming a member of our crafting community. If you did like any of today's projects, remember to hit that thumbs up. But again, have such a wonderful day and happy crafting. If you like the video that you just saw and you want to keep crafting together, here's another video that you might enjoy. And as always, remember to like and subscribe. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time.